Chapter 1824. You can also see those 3 words? If it was said that Ning Yu's ability to see the 3 blood-red characters Wu Heng Cave had shocked the Elder of Heaven's secrets, then Ning Lu's ability to see it had shocked the Elder of Heaven's secrets to the extreme. Regarding the Wu Heng Cave, there was a rumor. According to rumor, there were only 2 ways to see the words Everlasting Cave. First, grasp the art of divination. Second, his martial arts talent or soul talent had reached an extremely terrifying level. Elder Tianji was very familiar with Ning Yu's talent and knew that it was extremely powerful. But Ning Lu's talent was also so high that it truly surpassed the expectations of the Elder of Heavenly Secrets. One had to know that the younger one was, the scarier one's talent was. In other words, in terms of pure talent, Ning Yu might lose to Ning Lu. Let me tell you some things to take note of. Taking a deep breath, old man Tianji cast aside the thoughts in his mind and solemnly said, "The Wu Heng Cave has an extremely powerful restriction array that will suppress everyone's cultivation to the heavenly supreme realm. As for whether our cultivation will be at the early stage or peak stage, that will depend on everyone. It depends on one's martial talent." "What dangers are there in the Wu Heng Cave?" Ning Yu asked. To be honest, the Wu Heng Cave suppressing cultivation was very beneficial to Ning Yu and the others, because no matter who it was, once they entered the Wu Heng Cave, their cultivation would be at the Sky Supreme Realm. Ning Yu was confident that he wouldn't lose to any cultivator under the Sky Supreme Realm. So, the danger of entering the Wu Heng Cave might not come from the outside world, but from within the Wu Heng Cave. I'm not sure about the specific dangers, because I've never been inside before. Tianji Lauren shook his head and said, "But there is one thing that I am very clear about, and that is that no one who entered the Wu Heng Cave was able to come out. Even in ancient times, there were peak Saint Realm experts who entered the Wu Heng Cave, but they were also unable to come out." Whoosh! Elder Tianji's words caused everyone's expressions to turn solemn. Suppressing his cultivation was a small matter, but not being able to come out was a huge matter. After all, no one knew what was inside the Wu Heng Cave and what dangers one would encounter inside. For a moment, everyone hesitated. Rumble! However, just as the crowd was hesitating, a shocking explosion could be heard from afar. Not good, someone has entered MT Half-Cloud. Hearing this rumble, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets paled. He hurriedly said, "Are we going in or not? Ning Yu, make a decision." "Go in." Ning Yu's eyes were cold. He gritted his teeth and said, "We'll die if we stay. Everyone, follow me. Let's go in." As he spoke, Ning Yu made a prompt decision, his figure flashed, and he was the first to enter the Endless Cave. Seeing Ning Yu entering the Wu Heng Cave, the Heavenly Fortune Old Man, Ning Lu, Yunmu, Xiun, and the other cultivators all moved their bodies and entered the Wu Heng Cave. Buzz! Not long after Ning Yu and the others entered the Wu Heng Cave, the void in front of the cave suddenly split open, and a cultivator slowly appeared. If Ning Yu and the others were here, they would definitely discover that this martial artist was none other than Lu Chuanji, who had escaped into the void not long ago. The current Lu Chuanji's brows were tightly knitted, as if he had encountered something he could not understand. The Wu Heng Cave. Could it really be like what the Heavenly Fortune Old Man said? Only people with extremely high talent can see it? Staring at the rock above the cave entrance, Lu Chuanji's brows knitted into a crease. Regarding the 3 words Wu Heng Cave that Ning Yu and the others mentioned, he did not see it. Lu Chuanji was very confident in his talent. Hence, when the Heavenly Fortune Old Man said that his talent was not enough to see the 3 words Wu Heng Cave, Lu Chuanji harbored a doubtful attitude. Should I go in or not? Lu Chuanji's expression was solemn, secretly considering the pros and cons. If what Heavenly Fortune Old Man said was right, his cultivation would also be suppressed to the Sky Supreme Realm when he entered the Wu Heng Cave. Lu Chuanji was not a fool. Once his cultivation was suppressed to the Sky Supreme Realm, then it would be very hard for him to gain any advantage inside the Wuhan cave. Hence, the current plan was to not go in for the time being, and spread the news of Ning Yu and the others hiding in the Wuhan cave, luring Song Wu and the rest over. Whoosh! Lu Chuanji was not an indecisive person. If he said he would do it, then he would do it. With both feet on the ground, Lu Chuanji immediately tore through the void and entered. Outside the Wuhan cave, Ning Yu did not know what Lu Chuanji was doing, nor did he want to know. Because at this moment Ning Yu and the others were facing a choice, a rather difficult choice. Just as the Heavenly Fortune old man had said, after entering the Wuhan cave, all of their cultivation would be suppressed to the Sky Supreme Realm. Among them, Anhaoping, Xiun, Guyan, and Zhang Chang's cultivation would be suppressed to the late Sky Supreme Realm. Yunmu, the Talisman Supremacy, and the Heavenly Fortune old man's cultivation would be suppressed to the early Sky Supreme Realm. The little Qilin, Ning Lu, and Ning Yu's situation was very special. The little Qilin's cultivation was a little vague. It seemed to be at the Sky Supreme Realm, but also seemed to be at the Sage Realm. As for Ning Yu and Ning Lu, their cultivation did not decrease in the slightest. In other words, Ning Lu was still a peak Sky Supreme, and Ning Yu was still a late Sky Supreme. As for why their cultivation did not decrease, Ning Yu did not have that much time to think about it. To him, the most important thing right now was to make a choice. My suggestion is to split up. Half of us go to the left and the other half to the right. That way, even if there is danger, we can minimize it. The Heavenly Fortune old man said after a moment of silence. Now is not the time for us to split up. Ning Yu shook his head and pointed to the left passage. Let's go this way. Why the left? Even if we have to choose, we should choose the right. The Yuan Qi on the right passage is much denser than on the left. Yunmu was puzzled. Ning Yu glanced at Yunmu before withdrawing his gaze and speaking in an indifferent voice. Intuition. As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Yu didn't care about what Yunmu thought. He moved his feet and entered the tunnel on the left. Ning Lu and the little Qilin agreed with Ning Yu unconditionally. So when they saw Ning Yu enter the left passage, they hurriedly followed. Behind them, Zhang Chang and Anhaoping also followed closely. The cold-looking man had already been put into Ning Yu's storage ring, so he did not follow everyone. Let's go. The Heavenly Fortune old man waved his hand and said, Ning Yu's choice of the left passage is not without reason. The closer it is to this, the more we cannot be fooled by superficial illusions. With that, the Heavenly Fortune old man also did not care about Yunmu's thoughts and strode into the left passage. Fooled by superficial illusions? Yunmu frowned and shifted his gaze to the right passage. Yunmu sucked in a breath of cold air when he saw what it was. Then, Yunmu hurriedly pulled the Talisman Supremacy into the left passage. Chapter 1825. Rumble. When Ning Yu and the others completely disappeared, a rumbling sound suddenly came from the right passage. If everyone was still here, they would have noticed that the ground had suddenly caved in. That wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that a four-horned monster with a human body and a horse's head slowly walked out of the pit. The four-horned monster's cultivation was not at the Sky Supreme Realm, but at the Sage Realm. From the aura that the four-horned monster emitted, it could be roughly determined that its cultivation was at least in the late Sage Realm. In a cave where everyone's cultivation had been suppressed to the Sky Supreme Realm, a late Sage Realm monster had suddenly appeared. Everyone knew what that meant. Someone else has come in. I can sense that this time, there is an extremely talented person. I hope Master will like him. The four-horned monster opened its mouth. Then, it leaped into the crater and disappeared. Everyone, be careful. There might be danger later. In the left passage, Elder Tianji's expression was solemn as he said in a low voice, "The space in the area ahead is very unstable. Since the space ahead is unstable, We can all stop moving forward and stay here for an hour or two before returning the way we came, Yunmu couldn't help but suggest when he heard Elder Tianji's words. Before you make a decision, please use your brain to think about it a little more. Before Ning Yu and the Elder of Heavenly Secrets could say anything, Ning Lu rolled his eyes and said, "There are some words that are easy to be laughed at when spoken." Yunmu's expression changed when he heard Ning Lu's words. He forcefully swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. Just like how he had doubted Ning Yu's choice, Yunmu turned around and looked behind him. He completely understood his mistake. Compared to the space behind the passage, the space ahead could only be described as extremely stable. In other words, it wasn't that Ning Yu and the others didn't want to stay where they were, or that they didn't want to return the way they came. It was just that the way back was more difficult than going forward. If they could go back, who would want to go deeper into the cave? After all, the most terrifying thing was the unknown danger. Rustle. Next, everyone slowly moved forward. Crack. However, after they continued forward for a quarter of an hour, something strange happened. The space in front of them suddenly split open, and a one-horned monster appeared in front of them. The one-horned monster was rather unique. It had a human body and a horse head, and there was a single horn on its head. What shocked everyone the most was not the appearance of the one-horned monster, but its cultivation base. Early stage sage. The one-horned monster's cultivation was at the early stage of the sage realm, and its vitality was extremely dense. You too, come with me. After the one-horned monster appeared, it first swept its gaze over everyone, then stretched out its right hand and pointed at Ning Yu and Ning Lu, saying, "The rest of you wait here." "Who are you?" Ning Yu wasn't going to compromise just because of the one-horned monster's words. He frowned and asked, "Why did you stop us?" "Who I am isn't important. What's important is that the two of you are quite talented, so you were chosen," the one-horned monster said with a shrug. "His talent is not bad. He was chosen?" Ning Lu similarly raised his brows and said coldly, "You want to take us away without even making things clear? Aren't you a little too arrogant?" "Arrogant? I don't think so." The one-horned monster curled its lips and said, "In this world, strength is everything. Whoever is stronger will have the final say. I'm stronger than you, so that's how it should be." A early stage sage realm warrior dares to be arrogant in front of me? Do you have what it takes to be arrogant? Ning Lu snorted coldly. Swoosh. As soon as Ning Lu's voice fell, the one-horned monster's figure flashed and rushed out rapidly. Bang! Facing the charging one-horned monster, Ning Lu pushed Ning Yu away, clenched his right hand into a fist, and directly punched out. In the next moment, an extremely clear sound rang out. Two figures were sent flying backwards at the same time. Just from the distance that they were sent flying back, Ning Lu and the single-horned monster were evenly matched in terms of strength. Poochie. However, all of this was just on the surface. The real situation gradually became clear after Ning Lu spat out a large mouthful of dark red blood. "Your talent is so strong." The one-horned monster stared at Ning Lu with an ecstatic look on its face. Originally, in the one-horned monster's opinion, although Ning Lu's talent was strong, it was limited. But now it seemed that Ning Lu's talent had reached a terrifying level. It could be said that, since the appearance of the Wu Hing cave, among all the selected warriors, Ning Lu's talent was enough to rank in the top 3. "Ah! I've picked up a treasure this time." In excitement, the one-horned monster even raised its head and laughed loudly. After laughing wildly, the one-horned monster's eyes fell on Ning Yu. "His talent is so high, so yours must not be bad. Let me test it." The corner of the one-horned monster's mouth raised slightly, and then it rushed out again. This time, the one-horned monster's target was Ning Yu, not Ning Lu. After testing Ning Yu's martial talent, the one-horned monster was very interested in Ning Yu's martial talent. If Ning Yu's martial talent was comparable to Ning Lu's, then the one-horned monster would be rich. The more it thought about it, the more excited the one-horned monster became. In the process of rushing out, the one-horned monster could not stop laughing. Attack together! Ningyu would not foolishly fight one-on-one with the one-horned monster. His expression was cold, and he immediately decided that everyone should attack together to resist the one-horned monster. The confrontation between Ning Lu and the one-horned monster just now made Ningyu judge the one-horned monster's true combat strength. Stronger than Ning Lu, but not too much stronger. With everyone joining hands, there was a very high possibility of capturing the one-horned monster. The one-horned monster was the first demonic beast they encountered after entering the Wu Heng cave. If they could capture it, then it would be of great help towards understanding the Wu Heng cave. Swoosh! Under Ning Yu's instructions, everyone moved one after another and started encircling the one-horned monster. You guys have probably lost your minds, right? Looking at the people surrounding it, the one-horned monster was a little dumbfounded. Since the one-horned monster dared to come over, it showed that he had great confidence in being able to capture everyone present. Don't forget, this place was the Wu Heng cave, not outside. Inside the Wu Heng cave, the strength of the one-horned monster they all was truly terrifying. Since you guys think that you can compete with me, then I'll show you some strength so that you'll be convinced and give up. The one-horned monster shrugged, and then the aura of its body continued to increase. Early stage sage peak, middle stage sage peak. In just a few seconds, the one-horned monster's cultivation had increased from early stage sage peak to late stage sage peak. Moreover, the one-horned monster's cultivation was still increasing. Based on this trend, the one-horned monster's cultivation could at least be increased to sage peak, and it was not impossible for it to break through to the Great Perfection Sage. Chapter 1826. Crack! Just when Ning Yu and the rest surrounded the one-horned monster, before they could launch their attacks, they heard a crisp cracking sound coming from the monster. Hiss! The crisp cracking sound caused everyone, including Ning Yu, to have a drastic change in their faces. Pinnacle Saint Realm. They had no idea what secret technique the one-horned monster had executed, but its cultivation had actually reached the Pinnacle Saint Realm. If this wasn't the Wu Heng cave, and everyone's cultivation wasn't suppressed to the Heavenly Sovereign Realm, then it wouldn't be a big deal even if the one-horned monster's cultivation had reached the Pinnacle Saint Realm. After all, the strength that the one-horned monster had displayed was at most on par with Lu Chuanji, and it might even be slightly weaker. But right now, even if Ning Yu and the rest joined forces, they might not be the one-horned monster's opponent. How about it? Do you still want to fight me now? The one-horned monster seemed to be enjoying everyone's astonished gazes, so it raised its brows and pointed at Ning Yu and Ning Lu. The two of you, follow me. Everyone else, stay here. Russell. Hearing the one-horned monster's words, Ziyun and the rest looked at Ning Yu. At this moment, everyone had already treated Ning Yu as a leader. At this moment, if Ning Yu wanted them to go all out and fight the one-horned monster, no one would reject it. You guys wait here. Ning Lu and I will go with him. After a brief hesitation, Ning Yu made his decision. Right now, they definitely couldn't fight head-on. The Wu Heng cave wasn't simple. Although there was only one-horned monster, Ning Yu knew that if there was one, there would be 2, 3, or even countless. Therefore, the best choice was to follow the one-horned monster and see what it had up its sleeves. Truth be told, Ning Yu wasn't worried that the one-horned monster would kill him and Ning Lu. Because with the one-horned monster's strength, it would have already killed them if it wanted to, and there was no need for it to wait until now. Very good. The one-horned monster looked at Ning Yu playfully and said, I didn't expect you to become their leader even though your cultivation isn't high. As expected of someone extremely talented. Whoosh. As he spoke, the horned monster's figure flashed out, flashing directly towards the depths of the endless cave. Seeing the one-horned monster leave, Ning Yu and Ning Lu looked at each other before leaping up and following closely behind the monster. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Not long after Ning Yu and the other two left, the void in this area suddenly split open, and 4 small vortexes appeared. Then, a flag shot out from each vortex. The flags were placed in 4 different directions, trapping Lord Tianji and the little Qilin in the middle. The 4 flags did not seem to be connected to each other on the surface, but they were actually connected, and there was an invisible barrier between them. Don't move! Elder Tianji knew the power of this formation, so when he saw Yun Mu reach out to touch the invisible barrier, he immediately shouted, "If you don't want to die, then go ahead and touch those things." Whoosh! At the same time, Elder Tianji took out a piece of origin crystal and threw it at the barrier. Chi! As soon as the origin crystal touched the invisible barrier, it turned into a cloud of mist and disappeared. Elder Tianji's rebuke made Yun Mu's heart tremble, and he quickly retracted his hand. At the same time, Yun Mu gasped. Fortunately, Elder Tianji reminded her in time, or else she would have turned into nothingness. What should we do now? Are we just going to wait for death here? Yun Mu asked after retracting his hand. Wait! Elder Tianji did not say much. He only said one word. Wait! Yun Mu was confused. Ziyun was confused. Guyen was confused. Everyone was confused. In this situation, what was the difference between waiting and waiting for death? Were they going to wait for Ning Yu to come back and save them? It was not that they looked down on Ning Yu, but the one-horned monster's cultivation was at the pinnacle saint realm. Although Ning Yu and Ning Lu's cultivation were not affected by the endless cave, they were only at the late and pinnacle sky supremes. One was a late and the other was a pinnacle sky supreme. If the 2 of them could defeat the one-horned monster, the sun would rise from the west. Elder Tianji looked at everyone's confused expressions. He opened his mouth but chose to shut it in the end. In fact, even Elder Tianji was not sure if Ning Yu could come back and save them, because just now, he had secretly used his art of divination to make a divination. According to the divination, the disaster this time was extremely dangerous. However, it did not mean that there was no hope. Elder Tianji knew very well that this kind of divination usually meant that there was a chance of survival. As for whether this chance of survival was Ning Yu, even Elder Tianji did not know. After all, his art of divination had not been mastered to a certain level. Swish, swish, swish. Elder Tianji and the others were trapped, but Ning Yu and Ning Lu did not know. The 2 of them followed the one-horned monster and kept moving forward. But the deeper they went into the Wu Heng cave, the more shocked Ning Yu and Ning Lu became. As they went deeper, Ning Yu and Ning Lu discovered that the density of the Yuan Qi inside the Wu Heng cave had reached a terrifying level. Cultivating here would yield twice the results with half the effort. In other words, if they cultivated here, Ning Yu and Ning Lu were very confident that they could shorten the time needed to advance. 2 country bumpkins. The one-horned monster looked back at Ning Yu and Ning Lu, then rolled its eyes and said, "Hurry up and keep up. We will reach our destination in a short while." After saying this, the one-horned monster did not care where Ning Yu and Ning Lu were going, but continued to increase its speed. Swish! After following the one-horned monster at full speed for about half an hour, Ning Yu and the others finally stopped. A plaza? But looking at the huge plaza in front of them, Ning Yu and Ning Lu revealed a puzzled expression at the same time. They had thought that the one-horned monster would bring them to see someone. Who would have thought that the monster would bring them to a plaza? Although the plaza was large, it was very empty. There was a huge round stage in the empty plaza. On the round stage, there was a slightly thin youth with his hands behind his back. He raised his eyebrows and looked at Ning Lu and Ning Yu provocatively. He said disdainfully, "This is my 10th battle? Why did they find 2 heavenly supreme trash? Could it be that the celestial spirit realm didn't even have one? Don't tell me there is not even a single sage here?" Evil slave, cut the crap. If you defeat them, you can leave. If you lose, you should know the consequences. The one-horned monster's expression was cold as it reprimanded him. This is your 10th battle. I hope that you will give it your all. Otherwise, even if you win, I will make you fight another 10 battles. Hearing this, the youth who was called Evil Slave couldn't help but look ferocious. The previous 9 battles had all been life-or-death battles for him. Just one more battle and he would be able to leave this damned place. Who would have thought that the one-horned monster would bring 2 Sky Supreme cultivators? Originally, the Evil Slave had planned on playing with Ning Yu and Ning Lu. But now, he had changed his mind. The Evil Slave had decided to use his full strength. He was determined to kill Ning Yu and Ning Lu in one strike. Chapter 1827. You two go up and fight the Evil Slave. The one-horned monster pointed at the Evil Slave on the round platform and said, "Kill the Evil Slave and you will pass the first test." The first test? Ning Yu and Ning Lu frowned at the same time. Since there was a first test, it meant that there would be a second and third test. If the first test was to fight against a mid-stage sage, one could imagine how terrifying the second and third tests would be. That's right, the first test. However, I have to remind you. The one-horned monster shrugged and said, "You must win this battle. Otherwise, your friends will become a pile of bones." Whoosh. The one-horned monster's words caused Ning Yu and Ning Lu's expressions to change slightly. Ning Yu had thought that the one-horned monster would not let the elder of Tianji and the others go, but he did not expect that their lives would be completely in his and Ning Lu's hands. After taking a deep breath, Ning Yu said in a deep voice, "Are you sure that Ning Lu and I will fight against the Evil Slave in this battle?" "Of course it will be 2 against 1. The one-horned monster was a little speechless. "Although you are very talented, your cultivations are not very high. Also, I have to remind you that the Evil Slave has already killed 9 cultivators like you. Go!" Ning Yu knew that he would not be able to get an answer from the one-horned monster. Therefore, he looked at Ning Lu, then leaped up and charged towards the round platform. Whoosh! Whoosh! Although Ning Lu and Ning Yu's cultivation was only at the Heavenly Sovereign Realm, their speed wasn't any weaker than ordinary Saint Realm cultivators. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them appeared on the huge round platform, facing the Evil Slave. "You are not very lucky today." The Evil Slave stared at Ning Yu and Ning Lu and said calmly, "If this was my first 9 battles, I would definitely let you go. I would only cripple you and destroy your cultivations. I would not kill you." At this point, the Evil Slave paused for a moment before he continued, "But now I've decided to go all out and kill both of you with a single strike." The moment the word "kill" was uttered, the Evil Slave's body moved and charged towards Ning Yu and Ning Lu at a terrifying speed. Chi-chi! The fiendish slave moved so quickly that it created a sizzling sound as it rubbed against the air. "Out of the way!" Looking at the Evil Slave approaching him, Ning Yu made a prompt decision to separate from Ning Lu. No matter how strong an Evil Slave was, there was only one of them. If he and Ning Lu fought together, it was possible that the Evil Slave would use some powerful technique to kill them both. But when he and Ning Lu stood separately, the Evil Slave could only deal with one. What? However, just as Ning Yu thought that the slave would target either him or Ning Lu, the slave did something that shocked him. The Evil Slave split into 2 and suddenly became 2 evil slaves. Cloning technique? Ning Yu was certain that the Evil Slave was not using a cloning technique. Or rather, it was much more powerful than a cloning technique. The 2 evil slaves looked exactly the same. There was no difference in their combat strength or aura. 2 evil slaves meant that he and Ning Lu had to deal with 2 of them. The pressure would increase exponentially and become extremely great. Ning Lu, be careful. Ning Yu threw away all the thoughts in his mind and focused on dealing with the Evil Slave. Ning Yu knew that he had to stay calm at a time like this. Although the Evil Slave's cultivation was at the mid-stage sage, His combat strength was comparable to a mid-stage sage after he advanced to the late-stage Sky Supreme. Ning Lu's combat strength was even more exaggerated. After advancing to the peak Sky Supreme, Ning Lu's combat strength was comparable to a late-stage sage. Although the evil slave was strong, he was not invincible. This was especially true when the evil slave was fighting on two fronts. He had unknowingly split his combat strength. Bang! Bang! In the blink of an eye, two crisp sounds rang out. After the evil slave attacked once, the two doppelgangers immediately merged together. He's so strong. The evil slave rubbed his slightly swollen fist. His eyes darted around as he tried to think of a countermeasure. Through the attack just now, the evil slave had basically confirmed the strength of Ning Yu and Ning Lu. In a one-on-one fight, he could easily defeat one of them. However, in a one-on-two fight, it would take him a long time to defeat Ning Yu and Ning Lu. This was the evil slave's 10th fight. He did not want this to drag on for too long. His eyes were cold as he made a decision. He would use his speed to confuse Ning Lu and focus on dealing with Ning Yu. The evil slave was not an indecisive person. He immediately mobilized the primordial qi in his body and gathered it at his ankles. His speed instantly increased. Be careful. He's trying to deceive us with his speed. Ning Lu was a tree of world and had advanced to the peak Sky Supreme. His perception was naturally very strong. As soon as the evil slave made his move, Ning Lu used his powerful perception to lock onto the evil slave's true body and told Ning Yu where the evil slave was. I know what to do. Ning Yu's expression was solemn. The evil slave wanted to kill him in one move. Why wouldn't he want to do the same? This was only the first trial. There were still the second and third trials to go. If he wasted too much primordial qi and energy in the first trial, he would be at a disadvantage in the subsequent trials. Dong, dong, dong. What Ning Yu and Ning Lu did not know was that in another part of the void, two young cultivators were sitting on chairs. One of them, a young cultivator in white clothes, stretched out his right hand and gently tapped the table in front of him. He said, "These two cultivators are not bad. They can actually fight the evil slave to this extent. If we send them to the market, they should be able to fetch a good price." Just to sell them for a good price? The other young cultivator in light blue clothes smirked and said, "Both of them are very talented. They are worth nurturing." Worth nurturing? The cultivator in white looked at the cultivator in blue in surprise. He was a little shocked. In the organization, the status of the cultivator in blue was much higher than his. The people he came into contact with were also different. Originally, the cultivator in white thought that the cultivator in blue's visit had something to do with the evil slave. After all, the evil slave had fought 9 consecutive battles and was only 1 battle away from leaving. However, the words of the cultivator in blue made the cultivator in white involuntarily look at Ning Yu and Ning Lu. The cultivator in white clearly remembered that when the cultivator in blue had inspected the various everlasting caves, he had only said the words, "worth nurturing," 3 times. This meant that only 3 or 4 cultivators had caught the eye of the cultivator in blue for a very long time. It should be known that the weakest of the martial artists who caught the attention of the martial artists in blue were at least at the sage level. Chapter 1828. When this battle is over, send Evil Tyrant to the ring and have a match with the 2 of them. The martial artist in blue tapped the table with his right hand again and said calmly, "I want to test their strength through Evil Tyrant and see if I should send them to the human level or earth level training ground." Swoosh. If the white-clothed martial artist was shocked when the blue-clothed martial artist said the words "worth nurturing," then when the blue-clothed martial artist said this, the white-clothed martial artist's shock reached its peak. To be honest, the martial artist in white was a little dumbfounded. Send Evil Tyrant to the ring after the battle? The martial artist in blue's meaning was clear. Evil Slave would definitely fail and might even be killed. However, Evil Slave had the upper hand in the ring no matter how one looked at it. In the eyes of the martial artist in white, Ning Yu and Ning Lu were already very lucky not to be killed. As for them killing Evil Slave? Sorry, the martial artist in white had never thought about it. The martial artist in white took a deep breath and said carefully, "Well, Evil Tyrant will have an extremely important battle in half an hour. It's against a peerless genius from the demon spirit realm. This is going to be troublesome." The martial artist in blue frowned when he heard the martial artist in white's words. No one knew what he was thinking. After a while, the martial artist in blue said, "Go and bring that peerless genius from the demon spirit realm over. I want to see who is stronger, him or these two brats." The martial artist in white suddenly felt his mouth go dry. One had to know that the peerless genius from the demon spirit realm was a late-stage sage. In terms of combat strength, the peerless genius from the demon spirit realm was even stronger than Evil Tyrant. It would be better to send Evil Tyrant instead of a demon spirit realm genius. However, although the martial artist in white felt that it was a waste to send a demon spirit realm genius, he had no choice but to obey the martial artist in white's words. "I'll be right back." With a flash, the martial artist in white tore through the void and entered. Dong, dong, dong. After the martial artist in white disappeared, the martial artist in blue knocked on the table again and murmured, "I hope these two won't disappoint me." Rumble. Ning Yu and Ning Lu did not know what the martial artist in blue was murmuring. But even if they knew, they didn't have the time to care. This was because the battle between them and the evil slaves had reached its climax. It was the most crucial moment. The vile slave's battle strength was indeed exceptionally terrifying. 1 against 2, not only did he not show the slightest sign of weakness, he firmly suppressed the two of them. Under such circumstances, if nothing unforeseen happened, the evil slave would probably be the final victor. Damn it, if it wasn't for me using my dark golden branches to help Xiun, how could that evil slave be my opponent? Ning Lu's face was livid. The evil slave's cultivation was only at the middle stage of the sage realm, but his strength was comparable to a martial artist at the peak of the late stage of the sage realm. After reaching the pinnacle heavenly supreme realm, Ning Lu's strength was only comparable to late-phase saint realm cultivators. Although one was at the late stage of the sage realm and the other was at the peak of the late stage of the sage realm, the gap between them was huge. Of course, this gap was only a matter of a few dark golden branches for Ning Lu. If he still had his dark golden branches, he might have been able to defeat the evil slave with all 5 of them. Cut the crap. There's only one way for us to defeat the evil slave. Ning Yu did not know how to find excuses. He only knew how to look for opportunities. "What is it?" Ning Lu asked. "Channel all your vitality into my body, and I'll deal the fatal blow to the evil slave." Ning Yu's eyes were cold, as if he had made a big decision. "That's a good idea." Ning Lu was slightly stunned, but his eyes soon lit up. Ning Lu knew that this method could indeed deal a fatal blow to the evil slave. If they were prepared, they could even kill the evil slave directly. Although this method was good, it had a huge drawback. Firstly, the vitality of 2 people would be channeled into one person's body, which would be a huge test for the one who launched the attack. If one's body quality was not up to standard, there was a high chance that one's body would explode and die. Secondly, even if one's body quality was up to standard, one could still be injured by the evil slave's counterattack. In short, the one who launched the attack would be under the greatest pressure and danger. "Let me do it. After all, my cultivation is a level higher than yours, and my self-healing ability is also stronger than yours." Ning Lu took a deep breath and said, "Help me distract the evil slave first. I'll be in charge of killing the evil slave." In order to prevent Ning Yu from competing with him, Ning Lu kicked Ning Yu away after saying that. "What the hell are they doing?" The evil slave was confused when he saw Ning Lu kick Ning Yu. Logically speaking, the two of them should be working together to deal with him. Why did they have a disagreement? The evil slave was a person with few thoughts. If he could not figure it out, he would not think about it. Whether Ning Lu and Ning Yu had a disagreement or not had nothing to do with the evil slave. His main goal was to kill Ning Yu and Ning Lu. Regardless of whether Ning Yu and Ning Lu had a disagreement or not, the evil slave wanted to kill Ning Yu and Ning Lu. He would not change his mind just because they had a disagreement. The evil slave turned around and looked at the one-horned monster. His eyes turned cold and he said viciously, "This day next year will be the day you die." As soon as he said that, the evil slave's figure flashed and charged straight at Ning Lu. Since Ning Yu and Ning Lu had separated, it was a good opportunity for the evil slave. If Ning Yu and Ning Lu worked together again, it would take him some time to kill them. Now that Ning Yu and Ning Lu had separated, it was a good opportunity for the evil slave to kill them. Rumble! The evil slave clenched his right hand into a fist and threw a punch. The fist brought with it a violent gust of origin energy that tore a hole in the void. The terrifying aura was like a speeding flying sword that slashed at Ning Lu. This is the moment. Just as the flying sword was about to hit Ning Lu, Ning Yu's figure suddenly flashed and disappeared right in front of the evil slave. Where did he go? Ning Lu's sudden disappearance shocked not only the evil slave, but even the one-horned monster in the distance widened its eyes in shock. Buzz! Ning Lu's disappearance was as sudden as his reappearance. Ning Lu did not appear next to the evil slave, nor did he appear in the distance. Instead, he appeared next to Ning Yu. But as soon as Ning Lu appeared, Ning Yu waved his hands and slapped the evil slave's back. The origin energy in Ning Yu's body surged. An endless stream of origin energy flowed through Ning Yu's palms and into Ning Lu's body through his back. Bang! 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 As the origin energy in Ning Lu's body increased, dull thuds kept coming from his body. As the dull thuds increased, Ning Lu's aura became more and more terrifying. Although Ning Lu had yet to break through to the half-sage realm, his aura was already stronger than that of an ordinary half-sage martialist. All right. Chapter 1829. You're playing tricks. The evil slave's heart skipped a beat when he saw Ning Lu's change. He sensed that something was amiss. However, even though he sensed that something was amiss, the evil slave did not show it. Instead, he put on an indifferent and disdainful look and said coldly, "So what if you've advanced to the sage realm? I can still kill you easily. Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue when you talk big? I'd like to see how you're going to kill me easily today," Ning Lu said in a deep voice as he stared coldly at the evil slave. "I said I'll kill you, so I'll definitely kill you." The evil slave's lips curled up slightly. He then melted into the void and disappeared. "You'll have to ask for my opinion if you want to deal with Ning Yu." As soon as the evil slave disappeared, Ning Lu knew what he was going to do. In order to kill the evil slave, Ning Yu had poured all the vitality in his body into his own body. It would be extremely difficult for him to even block a single attack from the evil slave, let alone fight him. How could Ning Lu let the evil slave deal with Ning Yu at a time like this? Whoosh! As soon as the evil slave disappeared, Ning Lu tore open the void and dove in. Die! The evil slave disappeared quickly and reappeared just as quickly. Almost instantly, the evil slave appeared in front of Ning Yu. He clenched his right fist and threw a punch at Ning Yu's head. The evil slave's punch was extremely powerful. If Ning Yu was unlucky enough to be hit in the head, his head would probably explode in half. Would that really happen? The answer was obviously no. Ning Yu did not even look at the fist that was about to land on his head. Absolute confidence. Rather than saying that Ning Yu was confident in himself, it was better to say that he had absolute confidence in Ning Lu. As it turned out, Ning Yu's confidence was not misplaced. In the nick of time, Ning Lu suddenly tore open the void and appeared in front of Ning Yu, blocking the evil slave's powerful attack for Ning Yu. Bang! The two fists collided. A crisp sound rang out as the two figures retreated rapidly. On the surface, Ning Lu and the evil slave seemed to be evenly matched. Neither of them could do anything to the other. However, as the evil slave was retreating, he suddenly felt something sweet in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. The fiendish slave spat out a mouthful of blood, indicating that he had been defeated in this exchange. However, the evil slave was not someone who would admit defeat easily. Although he was at a disadvantage in the first exchange, he was not afraid of Ning Lu. More accurately, the evil slave still believed that he could kill Ning Lu. If you anger me, not even God can save you today. This time, the evil slave was truly enraged. He decided to use the forbidden technique. The evil slave must be that. The evil slave must have a certain strength. The evil slave must not have been defeated. Out of the first 9 matches, 2 of them had been won by the evil slave using a forbidden technique. The evil slave had thought that this battle would be an easy one, and that there would be no need for him to use the taboo technique. However, it seemed that he had been wrong. The Lu, Ning. That the long, Ning, Lu. Not far away, the one-horned monster nodded when he saw the evil slave's actions. At first, the one-horned monster did not think that the evil slave would be able to use the forbidden skill. However, as the battle progressed, the one-horned monster realized that he had wrongly accused Ning Yu and Ning Lu. However, as the battle progressed, the one-horned monster knew that he had wronged Ning Yu and Ning Lu. The fact that they could force the evil slave to use the forbidden skill was enough to show how powerful they were. The fact that they could force the evil slave to use the forbidden skill was enough to show how powerful they were. Should I step in and stop them? The one-horned monster frowned, wondering if he should stop the evil slave. The battle with the evil slave was only the first test for Ning Yu and Ning Lu. The one-horned monster did not want Ning Yu and Ning Lu to be killed. His original intention was to test Ning Yu and Ning Lu's true combat strength. Now that the evil slave had used the forbidden skill, the one-horned monster was really afraid that Ning Yu and Ning Lu would be killed. The one-horned monster had already determined Ning Yu and Ning Lu's true combat strength. Among Sky Supremes, they could be described as ridiculously strong. Under such circumstances, the one-horned monster naturally did not want Ning Lu and Ning Yu to be killed. However, even though the one-horned monster wanted to stop them, he did not move. After all, barging into the arena was no joke. Right? Didn't the four-horned monster say that he would come? Why is he nowhere to be seen? The one-horned monster looked around, trying to find the four-horned monster. It was the four-horned monster who had sent him to intercept Ning Yu and Ning Lu. It was also the four-horned monster's idea to fight the evil slave in the first test. The four-horned monster had said that he would rush over immediately when Ning Yu and Ning Lu were fighting the evil slave. Who would have thought that the four-horned monster would not appear even though the outcome of the fight was almost decided? Rumble. While the one-horned monster was still trying to contact the four-horned monster, Ning Lu and the evil slave had already started fighting on the round arena. Compared to the previous fight, this fight was even more exciting. But while it was exciting, the battle situation had undergone an earth-shattering change. It was not the evil slave who had the upper hand, but Ning Lu who had the upper hand, forcing the evil slave to retreat step by step. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before the vile slave would be killed by a powerful attack. At first, the one-horned monster was worried about the safety of Ning Yu and Ning Lu. Now, he was worried about the evil slave's safety. The evil slave's 9 consecutive victories were enough to show how important he was to the organization. If such an important person were to die in a low-level realm like the immortal spirit realm, the one-horned monster would have to bear some responsibility. How troublesome! The 2 changes in his mental state gave the one-horned monster a headache. Although it was a headache, the one-horned monster did not dare not report this to the higher-ups. He continued to contact the four-horned monster, hoping that he could contact the four-horned monster before the evil slave was killed. To Ning Lu, the four-horned monster and the one-horned monster were not important. At this moment, the most important thing to him was to kill the evil slave as soon as possible. The evil slave was very powerful. If he was killed any later, Ning Yu would be in more danger. After all, Ning Yu did not have much combat power at the moment. If the evil slave risked his life to attack Ning Yu would not be able to get away with it. Die! Ning Lu's eyes turned cold when he thought of this, and his body shot out at a terrifying speed. Humph! The evil slave sensed that something was wrong the moment Ning Lu shot out. However, the evil slave was very calm. He waved his hands repeatedly, trying to resist Ning Lu's attack. It's already very good that he has lasted until now. At the same time, the blue-clothed cultivator frowned and muttered in the air. Yes, the fact that the two of them could fight the evil slave until now is enough to prove their strength. There were two cultivators standing beside the blue-clothed cultivator. One was a white-clothed cultivator, and the other was about the same age as Ning Yu. When the white-clothed cultivator heard the blue-clothed cultivator's words, the white-clothed cultivator asked, "Do you want me to save them?" Chapter 1830. The evil slave is done for? The white-robed cultivator was slightly stunned. His face was filled with disbelief. From the white-robed cultivator's point of view, although the evil slave seemed to be at a disadvantage, it was all based on the premise that the evil slave had not used the forbidden skill. Now that the evil slave had used the forbidden skill, it was unlikely that he would fail. However, the blue-robed cultivator's judgment was surprisingly accurate. He had never failed in a battle that he had judged. In other words, if the blue-robed cultivator said that the evil slave was done for, then the evil slave was definitely done for. As expected, the sound of blood being spat out could be heard from the arena not long after the blue-robed cultivator finished speaking. The evil slave spat out a mouthful of blood in the arena. He looked extremely weak. As for Ning Lu, who was not far away from the evil slave, his body was bent slightly as he panted heavily. It was obvious that it was not that Ning Lu did not want to kill the evil slave, but that he had already lost most of his combat strength. Actually, it was not impossible to kill the evil slave by force, but it was not worth it. This was because the evil slave might bite back at him if he was not careful. After all, the evil slave was a mid-stage saint martial artist. His self-destruction was still very powerful. How is this possible? The evil slave's eyes were unfocused. The defeat in the battle had directly caused his spirit to dissipate. After this battle, even if Ning Lu did not kill the evil slave would not have such combat strength in the future. Congratulations on passing the first round of the test. Seeing that the outcome of the battle had been decided, the one-horned monster flew directly to the arena and said to Ning Lu and Ning Yu, "You have half an hour to prepare. The second round of the test will begin in half an hour." Ning Lu and Ning Yu could not be bothered with the one-horned monster. They sat down cross-legged and took out immortal crystals from their robes to consume and recuperate. They would only have a chance of passing the second round of the test if their strength had recovered to its peak. Otherwise, no matter how easy the second round of the test was, they could still fail miserably. Whoosh! However, Ning Yu and Ning Lu had only recuperated for a dozen minutes when the void above their heads suddenly split open. 3 cultivators slowly flew out from the crack in the void. Whoosh! Seeing the 3 cultivators suddenly appear, Ning Yu and Ning Lu immediately stopped recuperating and looked at each other warily. He, don't be nervous. I mean you no harm. The 3 martial artists who suddenly appeared were none other than the martial artist in blue and the martial artist in white. After the blue-clothed cultivator landed on the arena, he smiled faintly and said, "You were able to defeat the evil slaves. This means that your talent is very strong. I intend to nurture you well. Who are you? Why are you training us?" Ningyu frowned and asked in a deep voice. For some reason, Ningyu did not feel the slightest yuan qi fluctuation from the blue-clothed and white-clothed martial artists. The only person who made Ningyu feel a fluctuation of yuan qi was the martial artist, who was about his age. That martial artist was at the middle stage of the sage realm. Although he could not determine the cultivations of the warriors in blue and white, Ningyu had reason to believe that their cultivations had surpassed the sage realm. I'm sorry, I may not have been clear enough. The cultivator in blue shrugged his shoulders, feeling slightly embarrassed. He said, Before I nurture you, you have to pass 3 tests. The first test is to defeat the evil slave. Congratulations, you have completed it. As for the second test, at this point, the warrior in blue paused for a moment. His eyes swept over the martial artist who was about the same age as Ningyu and continued, I originally wanted you to have a spar, but now I've changed my plan. I've decided to let you guard the Wu Hung Cave and help me get rid of those cats and dogs who barge into the Wu Hung Cave. I want to know who you are. Ningyu did not refuse the warrior in blue and asked instead. I would like to know who you are. Ningyu did not reject the blue-clad cultivator. Ningyu knew this. Ningyu just wanted to understand the warrior in blue and the others as much as possible and understand the Wu Hung Cave. In fact, staying here might be more advantageous for Ningyu and the others than leaving the Wu Hung Cave. After all, there were Song Wu, Lu Chuanji, and the peerless experts from the Pill Emperor City. After all, there were Song Wu, Lu Chuanji, and the peerless experts from the Pill Emperor City. As for staying in the Wu Hung Cave, although Shao Chen did not know what the blue-clothed cultivators were planning, his safety was guaranteed for a short period of time. After the 3 tests are completed, I will naturally tell you who I am. As he spoke, the cultivator in blue waved his hand at Ningyu and the others. Xiao! 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 The blue-clothed martial artist seemed to casually wave his hand, but in reality, it contained a terrifying yuan qi gale. 3 terrifying gusts of yuan qi carried Ningyu, Ning Lu, and the peerless genius of the devil spirit realm. Kacha! Moreover, the void suddenly split open. Before Ningyu and the other 2 could react, they were brought into the void by the yuan qi gale. Isn't this test a little too easy? After Ningyu and the rest left, the white-clothed martial artist furrowed his brows and asked, with the battle prowess of the 3 of them, there might not be any martial artists who can contend with them in the Wu Hung Cave, right? Is it simple? I don't think so. The blue-clothed martial artist smiled, and did not directly answer the white-clothed martial artist's word. The white-clothed martial artist knew that there were some things that could be asked, and some things that were best not to be asked. Since the blue-clothed martial artist did not say, then he would not go and annoy him. In any case, if something happened, the blue-clothed martial artist would cover for it. The organization would not blame him at all. Furthermore, it was rare for the blue-clothed martial artist to take a fancy to 2 Sky Supreme martial artists. There was no need for him to go against the blue-clothed martial artist. Thinking of this, the white-clothed martial artist quietly exerted force in his right hand and crushed a crystal ball. Humph! So what if I openly snatched people in your territory? If you came personally, I might give you some face, but you did not dare to show your face, so I could only kindly accept these 2 martial artists. How could the white-clothed martial artist's small actions be hidden from the blue-clothed martial artist? However, the blue-clothed martial artist did not want to lower himself to the same level as the white-clothed martial artist, because the white-clothed martial artist's position in the organization was too far apart from his. Unless the white-clothed martial artist's master came, he would be the absolute upper echelon in the Wu Hung Cave. Could it be that the 4-horned monster's absence has something to do with the blue-clothed martial artist? The 1-horned monster did not seem to make any movements on the surface, but in fact, his heart was spinning rapidly. Strictly speaking, he, the 4-horned monster, and the white-clothed martial artist belonged to the same faction, while the blue-clothed martial artist belonged to another faction. Generally speaking, the battle between the two factions would definitely not affect a small place like the celestial spirit realm. Who would have thought that the blue-clothed martial artist would suddenly descend and threaten to take away Ning Yu and Ning Lu to properly groom them? This situation naturally shocked the one-horned monster. Shock aside, the one-horned monster did not forget to continue contacting the four-horned monster. Chapter 1831. Bang! Bang! Wu Huang Cave. In the two passageways not too far from the cave entrance, two crisp voices suddenly rang out. Damn it! What bad luck! Immediately after, two clear and crisp sounds rang out, followed by two flustered and exasperated curses. There was no doubt that the two exasperated people were Ning Yu and Ning Lu. As their strength had not yet recovered to its peak state, this fall really caused Ning Yu and Ning Lu a lot of pain. Anyway, this place is not too far from the Wu Huang Cave entrance. In my opinion, we might as well kill our way out. Rubbing his slightly swollen buttocks, Ning Lu said fiercely, such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but if we miss it, don't think there will be a next time. Ignorant. Ning Yu rolled his eyes and said, since the martial artist in blue dares to send us here, it means that he has absolute confidence to control us. Also, don't you think the martial artist in blue is very special? Very special? Ning Lu was slightly stunned and fell into deep thought. The more he thought, the more solemn Ning Lu's face became. In the end, Ning Lu even couldn't help but suck in a cold breath. From the beginning, Ning Lu felt that the martial artist in blue was not simple, but he did not pay too much attention to the martial artist in blue. Instead, he was thinking about how to leave and how to escape smoothly. Now listening to Ning Yu, he carefully thought about it again. Do you think the martial artist in blue really wants to train us? Ning Yu asked again. It's hard to say. Ning Lu shook his head, indicating that he could not tell. This is the strength of the martial artist in blue, Ning Yu said in a deep voice. What we have to do is to guard here, take one step at a time, swoosh. Before Ning Yu's voice fell completely, there were two martial artists galloping in front of him. Be careful. Looking at the two martial artists rushing towards him, Ning Yu's face changed slightly and he hurriedly said, one of them is Song Wu. Damn, it's really Song Wu. Ning Lu clenched his fists and couldn't help but swear. Ning Yu? Ever since the teleportation array was forced to stop, Song Wu had used a secret technique to leave the Half-Cloud Mountain and quickly returned to the Pill Emperor City. Arriving at the Alchemy Imperial City, Song Wu told the course of events to Gong Yangqing at the first possible moment. After knowing what had happened, Gong Yangqing was immediately enraged. Even though he was furious, Gong Yangqing did not lose his rationality. He hurriedly found a martial practitioner who had descended from a higher plane with him and knew the art of divination. He asked that martial practitioner to divine the location of Ning Yu and the little Qilin. There was also a small interlude in between. Cultivators who understood the art of divination almost suffered a backlash when they tried to divine Ning Yu's fate. Fortunately, he gave up on Ning Yu in time and turned to perform divination for the little Qilin. After a round of divination and wasting a long period of time, he finally calculated the exact location of little Qilin and the others. Wu Huang Cave. To tell the truth, when he found out that little Qilin and the others were at the Wu Huang Cave, Gong Yangqing was rather silent. Other people didn't know the ins and outs of the Wu Huang Cave, but he, Gong Yangqing, was crystal clear. The forces of the Wu Huang Cave in the higher planes were extremely terrifying. Since they established the Wu Huang Cave in the immortal spirit realm and allowed little Qilin and the others to enter, it meant that there was a martial practitioner that the Wu Huang Cave valued among little Qilin and the others. As for whether they valued Ning Yu or little Qilin, Gong Yangqing was not particularly sure. However, after thinking it over, Gong Yangqing still decided to send Song Wu and another peerless powerhouse to make a trip to the Wu Huang Cave. It was naturally good if they could bring little Qilin away. If they couldn't, there was no need to force it either. Gong Yangqing did not tell Song Wu and the other peerless powerhouse about the ins and outs of the Wu Heng cave. He just told them to guard the cave entrance and not to enter. Unexpectedly, Song Wu was eager to render meritorious service. He ignored Gong Yangqing's persuasion and directly entered the Wu Heng cave with the other powerhouse. The moment he entered the Wu Heng cave, Song Wu regretted it. His pinnacle Saint Realm cultivation was actually suppressed to the late phase Heavenly Sovereign Realm. The other peerless powerhouse, Chen Yinge, had her cultivation suppressed to Peak Sky Supreme. Song Wu hesitated for a while, but in the end, he still braced himself and entered the Wu Heng cave. After a period of advancing, there was finally light at the end of the tunnel, letting him run into Ning Yu and Ning Lu. Truly wearing out iron shoes in fruitless searching, finding what you're looking for without even looking for it. Looking at the two familiar figures in front, Song Wu was so excited that he almost jumped up. Song Wu, where's the little Qilin you mentioned? Chen Yinge was not as excited as Song Wu. On the contrary, his expression was still a little solemn as he said in a deep voice, "Don't forget our goal. We're here to find little Qilin, not to find these two Sky Supreme martial artists. What's the hurry? Finding the two of them, would we still have to worry about not being able to find little Qilin?" Song Wu waved his hand and said, a little disapprovingly, in Song Wu's view, since they found Ning Yu and Ning Lu, then the little Qilin was definitely not far from here. As long as they took down Ning Yu and Ning Lu, they would definitely be able to force out the little Qilin's whereabouts. Then what are you still standing there for? Hurry up and go. Chen Yinge did things swiftly and decisively. He did not want to waste time here, so he directly rushed out and rushed towards Ning Lu. Not knowing why, after entering the Wu Heng cave, Chen Yinge kept feeling that something wasn't quite right. Moreover, this feeling that something wasn't right was getting stronger and stronger. Therefore, Chen Yinge only had one thought, and that was to capture the little Qilin as soon as possible and then leave the Wu Heng cave. As for the grudges between Song Wu and Ning Yu, Chen Yinge felt that there was no need for him to ask, nor was there a need for him to ask. Don't worry, can a cooked duck still fly? The corner of Song Wu's mouth rose into an arc as he leaped up and rushed towards Ning Yu with an extremely terrifying speed. Song Wu and Chen Yinge had a clear division of labor. Song Wu dealt with Ning Yu, while Chen Yinge dealt with Ning Lu. Be careful. Ning Yu did not let his guard down just because Song Wu's cultivation was suppressed to the late stage Sky Supreme. Instead, he became very solemn. Since Song Wu dared to enter the Wu Heng cave, it meant that he had some ability. Under such circumstances, how could Ning Yu relax? I know what to do. Ning Lu's expression was also very solemn. In a flash, Ning Lu rushed out, directly choosing to clash head-on with Chen Yinge. Although his expression was solemn, Ning Lu was actually very confident in his own strength. No matter what, Ning Lu was also a world tree. No matter what Chen Yinge's cultivation was before, he was now just a Peak Sky Supreme martial artist. Under the same cultivation, Ning Lu was not afraid of any martial artist. Rumble! A great battle instantly erupted. In the first move, Ning Yu and the other three used their full strength. In the passageway that could not be considered too big, dust flew and gravel scattered. Swoosh! Swoosh! After one move, Ning Yu and the others retreated one after another. How can he be so strong? Song Wu's eyes stared at Ning Yu, his fists tightly clenched, his face full of surprise. Song Wu knew that Ning Yu was very strong, but he did not expect that Ning Yu was strong to this extent. Under the same cultivation, Song Wu was actually vaguely at a disadvantage. Change of strategy, capture Ning Yu first. Chapter 1832. Understood. Chen Yinge wasn't a hothead. He was clear that if he and Song Wu split up to deal with Ning Yu and Ning Lu, they might not be able to capture the other party in a short time. And this was the Wu Hung Cave. Before they came, Gong Yongqing had warned them not to come in. In order to capture the little Qilin in advance, they took the risk to come in. Although their cultivation was only suppressed to the Sky Supreme Realm, who knew what kind of danger they would encounter next? Therefore, to Cheninga, controlling Ning Yu as soon as possible, then finding the little Qilin and taking it away was the way to go. Desolate Sky Palm. Cheninga's eyes turned cold as he waved his hands repeatedly. In an instant 2 horrifying palm prints separated from his palms. The palm prints didn't look especially big. They were just slightly bigger than Cheninga's palm. However, the horrifying energy contained in the palm prints made Ning Yu and Ning Lu suck in a breath of cold air. Heaven crippling leg. Seeing Cheninga send out 2 palm prints, Song Wu didn't stay idle. The energy in his sea of consciousness surged and gathered on his right foot. As the 3 words, heaven crippling leg, came out of his mouth, Cheninga's right foot suddenly enlarged and kicked at Ning Yu at an extremely shocking speed. Whether it was the desolate sky palm or the heaven crippling leg, they only had one target. That was Ning Yu. Since they had discussed to deal with Ning Yu together, then Song Wu and Cheninga would definitely have the same target. As for Ning Lu, he was put aside by the 2 of them. Damn it! Looking at the palm prints and the huge right foot that were approaching him, Ning Yu couldn't help but curse. Cursing was one thing, but Ning Yu was very clear about what he should do now. Fight head-on? Ning Yu wasn't that stupid. In a one-on-one, he might be able to contend with Song Wu or Cheninga. But in a one-on-two, Ning Yu was very clear that he had no chance of winning. Of the 36 stratagems, running is the best. In a moment of desperation, Ning Yu hurriedly turned his head around and flashed towards the other passageway of the Wu Hung Cave. He knew that he was no match for the enemy, but he still braced himself and charged forward. This was not bravery but stupidity. Ning Yu did not want to die for no reason. He only had one thought right now, and that was to think of a way to avoid Song Wu and Cheninga's attacks and buy enough time for Ning Lu. In that kind of situation, Ning Lu could have helped Ning Yu, but Ning Yu didn't let him. Because Ning Yu knew very well that in a one-on-one fight, he and Ning Lu had almost no chance of winning. It was nothing more than holding on a little longer. In order to solve this big problem once and for all, Ning Lu could only make a strong move and heavily injure Song Wu or Cheninga. Apart from this method, Ning Yu couldn't think of any other useful methods. However, this method was very risky. Once Ning Yu was captured by Song Wu and Cheninga, then even if Ning Lu could use some kind of powerful attack, it would be of no use. Tell me where the little Qilin is, and I can consider letting you live. Song Wu thought that he had caught Ning Yu, so his lips curled up and he said, "The little Qilin's life is the little Qilin's, but your life is yours. You can't give up your life for the little Qilin. Do you really think you have me?" After fleeing for a while, when Ning Yu saw a young martial artist standing in front of another passageway, he suddenly calmed down. "Of course," Song Wu said proudly. "I saw that you have nothing to do, so I specially found someone for you to practice with." Ning Yu shrugged at the martial artist in front of the passageway and said, "I'll deal with the late-stage Sky Supreme martial artist, and you deal with the peak-stage Sky Supreme martial artist. Let's see who gets rid of the other first. How about it?" "No problem." The young martial artist hesitated slightly, then nodded and said, "If you lose, I want you to promise me one thing." As he spoke, the young martial artist rushed out like a cheetah. The young martial artist's target was Cheninga. As for Song Wu, the young martial artist left him to Ning Yu. "That's easy." Ning Yu responded to the young martial artist, then stopped in place, clenched his fists, and fiercely punched at Song Wu's right foot. Fist against foot. No matter how one looked at it, Ning Yu was at a disadvantage. However, if Song Wu wanted to defeat Ning Yu alone, it would not be that easy. Although outside the Wu Heng Cave, Song Wu could casually kill Ning Yu. But this was the Wu Heng Cave, and Song Wu's cultivation was suppressed to the late-stage Sky Supreme. It could be said that if Song Wu did not have a trump card that he brought down from a high-grade plane, he might not even be Ning Yu's opponent. Bang! The fist and foot collided and a crisp sound rang out. Then, Ning Yu and Song Wu both retreated several meters. Poochie! As soon as Ning Yu and Song Wu landed, the outcome of the battle on the other side was decided. The young martial artist punched Chen Inga's cheek, directly knocking out several of Chen Inga's teeth. Chen Inga spat out a mouthful of blood, and his aura began to rapidly decline. Not long after, Chen Inga's aura, which had already fallen to the peak Sky Supreme level, fell again. Now, Chen Inga's aura was only at the early stage Sky Supreme level. Gulp! Ning Yu swallowed a mouthful of saliva on the spot. Wasn't this too showy? What a showy display! No matter what, Chen Inga was also a peak Saint Realm martial artist. Although his cultivation had fallen to the peak Sky Supreme level due to the Wu Heng Cave suppression, his combat strength was still very strong. If the young martial artist from the demon spirit realm could easily defeat Chen Inga, didn't that mean that it would be very easy for him to defeat him? The more he thought about it, the more terrified Ning Yu felt. So much so that Ning Yu vaguely felt that he had escaped a calamity. With the young martial artist's combat strength, if they fought on the stage, he would definitely be the one to lose. Fortunately, the blue-clothed martial artist changed the assessment. Otherwise, he and Ning Lu would both be in trouble. I won. After defeating Chen Inga, the young martial artist didn't even look at him and directly walked toward Ning Yu. A moment later, the young martial artist came before Ning Yu and faintly said, "You promised me a condition. I want to know if it still counts." Swish! As soon as the young martial artist's voice fell, a figure suddenly appeared from afar. Needless to say, that figure was Ning Lu. What surprised Ning Yu was Ning Lu's current cultivation. Initial Saint Realm. Ning Yu knew that Ning Lu was using his trump card, but he didn't expect that Ning Lu could raise his cultivation to the initial Saint Realm. One must know that it was terrifyingly difficult to raise from the peak Sky Supreme to the initial Saint Realm. Moreover, Ning Yu knew that Ning Lu's initial Saint Realm was a genuine initial Saint Realm. He didn't use a secret technique to forcibly raise his cultivation to the initial Saint Realm. In other words, Ning Lu had really advanced to the initial Saint Realm. Stimulate the body, stimulate all the potential in the body, and forcibly raise one's cultivation level. Chapter 1833. Rotting and Dying? Hearing the young warrior's words, Ning Yu was stunned at first. Then he hurriedly looked at Ning Lu. At the same time, his perception surged out and entered Ning Lu's body. Ning Yu sucked in a breath of cold air as soon as he did so. Although Ning Yu didn't know what Ning Lu had experienced to forcibly raise his cultivation to the early stage of Sage, Ning Yu was very clear that Ning Lu's profound qi had begun to leak. The leaking of profound qi meant that Ning Lu couldn't hold on for long at the early stage of Sage. To be honest, your friend's physique is so strong that I envy him. With his physique, he should be able to hold on for 3 days. The young warrior stared at Ning Lu carefully again and said, "After 3 days, his cultivation will gradually decline, and the speed of profound qi leakage will reach the extreme." Alas. Ning Yu looked at Ning Lu and opened his mouth. He wanted to say something, but he finally closed it and didn't say anything. Since Ning Lu had chosen to do this, it was meaningless for Ning Yu to say anything else. The only thing he could do now was to find a way to help Ning Lu recover as soon as possible. "Wait here. I'll go and catch Song Wu." Ning Lu was very calm. He smiled at Ning Yu, then he jumped up and rushed to Song Wu, who was trying to escape. Oh my God! Song Wu wanted to escape secretly while Ning Yu and the others were talking. he didn't expect to be found by Ning Lu. In a moment of desperation, Song Wu swore and kicked Chen Inga, sending Chen Inga towards Ning Road. Die. Ning Lu's target was Song Wu. He didn't care about Chen Inga's life. While moving forward, Ning Lu's right fist turned into a claw and directly pierced into Chen Inga's heart. Buzz. In just a moment, Chen Inga's body quickly shriveled. It could be seen that Ning Lu had already swallowed Chen Inga. Gulp. Seeing that Chen Inga was instantly swallowed by Ning Lu, the young warrior swallowed his saliva instead of Ning Yu. After the young martial artist swallowed his saliva, he looked at Ning Lu and then at Ning Yu. His eyes shone brightly. Bang! At this moment, Ning Lu grabbed Song Wu with his right hand and suddenly threw him in front of Ning Yu. His body hit the ground with a crisp sound. The pain from his body caused Song Wu's expression to turn ferocious. Let me give you a piece of advice. Release me as soon as possible. Otherwise, you'll become enemies with Grandmaster Ram. Song Wu glared at Ning Yu and said coldly, not to mention those in the celestial spirit realm, anyone who dares to offend Master Ram will not have a good ending even in the higher planes. Gotcha! How could Ning Yu fall for Song Wu's trick? Song Wu's voice had yet to fade when Ning Yu raised his right leg and kicked heavily on Song Wu's chest. This kick from Ning Yu directly broke several of Song Wu's ribs. The heart-wrenching pain from his chest made Song Wu completely speechless. Song Wu knew that he was screwed. If he infuriated Ning Yu, his outcome would most likely be the same as Chen Inga, being sucked dry. Song Wu was very clear that the reason why Ning Yu kept him alive was definitely because he wanted to know the situation outside. Ning Yu hiding inside the Wu Heng cave and not daring to go out showed that he did not understand the situation outside and was afraid that he would encounter danger after going out. Under this kind of situation, Song Wu's mind gradually became active. As long as he dealt with it carefully, he might be able to survive. I'll ask you a few questions next. I advise you to answer honestly. Otherwise, you should know the consequences. Ning Yu placed his right foot on Song Wu's neck and said coldly, First, what kind of status does Gong Yangqing have in the high-order plane? Why are the few of you obedient to his words? Master Gong Yangqing is a Tier 10 alchemy sovereign. Furthermore, he's an elder of a medium-sized city's alchemy association in a high-order plane. Song Wu did not dare to dally and answered honestly. Second question, apart from you and Chen Inga, how many other peak sage martial artists did Gong Yangqing bring down? Ning Yu continued to ask. Reaching Ning Yu's level, late-stage sage martial artists were already unable to pose any substantial threat to him. Even if there was no way to contend with late-stage sage martial artists, escaping was not too difficult either. Only peak sage martial artists, Ning Yu could not even contend with them. Escaping was even more nonsense. There are also two mysterious martial artists. As for their cultivation, they should be grand completion sage realm. Song Wu gritted his teeth as if he had made a very big decision and said, You're lying to me? Ning Yu said coldly, because of the existence of the plane barrier, it's impossible for there to be grand completion sage realm martial artists in the celestial spirit realm. Master Gong Yangqing has the origin energy, Song Wu explained. Whoosh. Song Wu's words not only shocked Ning Yu and Ning Lu, but even the young martial artist from the demon spirit realm revealed a look of surprise. The origin energy could be said to be the most precious thing in the celestial spirit realm. The origin energy had many uses. It could escape the detection of the plane barrier and allow a Sky Supreme martial artist to instantly advance to the sage realm. Are you serious? Ning Yu stared at Song Wu, hoping to find some clues from his eyes. Absolutely. Song Wu's eyes did not dodge at all as he said solemnly. Ning Yu, you promised me a condition just now. The young martial artist's eyes flickered as he looked at Ning Yu and said, This condition is that you help me obtain the origin energy of the Pill Emperor City. Poochie. Hearing the young martial artist's words, Ningyu almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. That was the origin energy, something that countless forces and experts would do anything to get their hands on. He wanted him to snatch Gong Yangqing's origin energy? How could the young martial artist say such a thing? I do want to snatch the origin energy, but I don't have the strength to do so. Ningyu rolled his eyes and said, not to mention me, even if you and I joined forces, we would definitely not be able to snatch the origin energy from Gong Yangqing. It's not that I don't want to help you, but I advise you to give up as soon as possible. Snatching the origin energy is not only my request, but also your friend's request. The young martial artist seemed to have guessed that Ningyu would say such a thing. He was not angry and continued, your friend has used a secret technique and won't be able to hold on for long. If there's no large amount of energy injected into his body in 3 days, he might even turn into a dried corpse. Ningyu was silent. Although the young martial artist said it rather bluntly, Ningyu was very clear. Things were really so terrible. Perhaps he could find a lot of energy in 3 days' time, but all the energy was not as useful as the origin energy. Thinking about it, Ningyu said, want to make me snatch Gong Yangqing's origin energy is also not impossible. But before that, we have to think of a way to leave the Wu Hing cave. If there's no way to even leave the Wu Hing cave, then no matter how much you say, it's useless. The matter of leaving the Wu Hing cave, leave it to me. I have a way to leave the Wu Hing cave. Chapter 1834. You have a way to leave the Wu Hing cave? Ningyu opened his mouth slightly and looked at the young martial artist in disbelief. Ningyu was well aware of the strength of the martial artist in blue. Even if the young martial artist advanced to the late stage of the Saint Realm, he wouldn't be able to escape from the martial artist in blue, let alone the intermediate stage of the Saint Realm. Moreover, the one-horned monster was still in the Wu Hing cave. At this time, the young martial artist said he had a way to leave the Wu Hing cave. Was he crazy? I do have a way to leave the Wu Hing cave, but the prerequisite is that you must improve your cultivation to the early stage of the Saint Realm, or at least the peak sky supreme. Ningyu's emotional changes were completely seen by the young martial artist. He seemed to have guessed that Ningyu wouldn't believe him, so he paused for a moment and then explained, I have insider information that the martial artist in blue and the martial artist in white will leave the Wu Hing cave soon, so we only need to deal with the one-horned monster. You have insider information? Ningyu stared at the young martial artist again, hoping to find some clues from his eyes. But unfortunately, the young martial artist's expression remained the same, without the slightest fluctuation. You don't need to worry about that. You just need to improve your cultivation to the early stage of the Saint Realm within a limited time. The young martial artist waved his hand and said in a deep voice, This matter is very important to me, and I hope you can do your best. I will naturally do my best. Ningyu frowned slightly and said, But I can't say whether I can reach the early stage of the Saint Realm. After all, swoosh. Before Ningyu's voice died away, the young martial artist took out a blood-red elixir from his arms. This is the blood-devouring elixir. With your current late-stage Sky Supreme cultivation, if you swallow and refine it, you will have a 90% chance of reaching the early stage of the Saint Realm. Throwing the elixir to Ningyu, the young martial artist said, Next, I will fight with Song Wu to help you cover up, and you have 2 hours to cultivate. Swish. As he spoke, the young martial artist rushed out, grabbed Song Wu, and flew towards another passage. Right, what's your name? Ningyu asked as he caught the blood-devouring pill thrown by the young cultivator. Zhao Hang. The young warrior responded without turning his head, then disappeared from the sight of Ningyu and Ning Lu. Let me have a look at the pill. Just as Zhao Hang left, Ning Lu came to Ningyu's side. He said in a deep voice, The blood-devouring pill is a kind of medicinal pill unique to the demonic spirit realm. Even a sage cultivator would have excellent effects if they consumed it. Ning Lu's meaning was clear. There was no reason for Zhao Heng to hand over such a precious pill to Ningyu. As for asking Ningyu to help him snatch Gong Yangqing's origin energy? Sorry, Ning Lu didn't really believe it from the bottom of his heart. Here. Ningyu knew that Ning Lu was experienced in inspecting pills, so he didn't hesitate and immediately threw the blood-devouring pill to Ning Lu. To be honest, even Ningyu felt that what had just happened was a little unbelievable. There was definitely something wrong with things that were out of the ordinary. Zhao Heng helped him like this, and it was under the premise that there were no restrictions. No matter how he looked at it, there was something wrong. Perhaps Zhao Heng really wanted him to help snatch Gong Yangqing's origin energy, but before he confirmed it, Ningyu didn't dare to joke around. Therefore, it was imperative to inspect the blood-devouring pill. Buzz. After receiving the blood-devouring pill from Ningyu, Ning Lu's mind surged. He even forced out a drop of blood essence and dripped it on the blood-devouring pill. Ning Lu was a world tree, so his blood had a certain purifying effect on pills. It could be said that if Zhao Heng really did something to the blood-devouring pill, he definitely wouldn't be able to hide it from Ning Lu's blood. No problem. After inspecting for a full 10 minutes, Ning Lu returned the blood-devouring pill to Ningyu. Through Ning Lu's inspection, he found that the blood-devouring pill hadn't been tampered with. Then protect me. I'll swallow the blood-devouring pill now and strive to break through to the early-stage sage realm in 2 hours. Ningyu's face turned cold as he said in a cold voice. Now that things had come to this, Ningyu couldn't care less about whether his cultivation was stable or not. In the current situation, as long as he could leave the Wu Heng cave, everything would be fine. You might be disappointed about this. Ning Lu shook his head and said, the energy contained in the blood-devouring pill can let an ordinary late-stage Sky Supreme advance to the early-stage Sage realm. But for you, it can only let you advance to the peak of the Sky Supreme at most. You can't even reach the half-step Sage realm. This, Ningyu was dumbfounded. He hurriedly used his perception and began to inspect the energy in the blood-devouring pill. I can't believe it. This inspection made Ningyu curse. Just as Ning Lu said, the energy contained in the blood-devouring pill could let an ordinary late-stage Sky Supreme advance to the early-stage Sage realm. But for him, it could only let him advance to the peak of the Sky Supreme at most. Whatever, it's good enough if I can advance to the peak of the Sky Supreme. Ningyu took a deep breath and threw away all the distracting thoughts in his mind. Then, he sat cross-legged on the ground and threw the blood-devouring pill into his mouth and began to chew. Crack! As a cracking sound came from Ningyu's mouth, the blood-devouring pill was bitten in half by Ningyu. A complete blood-devouring pill would not automatically melt. But after being bitten in half by Ningyu, it began to melt automatically. Moreover, the melted blood-devouring pill entered Ningyu's body through his throat. Ningyu waved his hands repeatedly and operated the spirit transformation art to the extreme. He began to refine the melted blood-devouring pill. Buzz. The effect of the blood-devouring pill was exceptionally good. Not long after he swallowed and refined it, Ningyu felt a change in his sea of consciousness. According to this situation, it wouldn't even take 2 hours for Ningyu to reach the pinnacle Heavenly Sovereign Realm from the late-phase Heavenly Sovereign Realm. While Ningyu was trying his best to break through to the peak of the Sky Supreme, Ning Lu secretly spat out a mouthful of blood. Forcibly raising his cultivation to the early-stage Sage was extremely harmful to Ning Lu. Zhao Heng said that Ning Lu could last 3 days, which was actually not a problem. But in order to check the blood-devouring pill, Ning Lu used another drop of essence blood, which meant that he could not last for 3 days. In other words, from now on, the rate at which Ning Lu's essence energy leaked was starting to increase. It was terrifyingly fast. In a short period of time, Ning Lu looked like he had aged a little. At the same time, in another passageway, Zhao Heng suddenly stopped and threw Song Wu to the ground. What's going on? Why did I lose contact with the blood-devouring pill? Zhao Heng frowned. He vaguely felt that something was wrong. He did not give Ningyu the blood-devouring pill to let Ningyu break through to the Sage Realm so that Ningyu could take advantage of it. Although he had never thought of controlling Ningyu, it was necessary to leave something in the blood-devouring pill to ensure that he could find Ningyu at any time after leaving the Wuheng cave. But now, Zhao Heng was shocked to find that he had lost contact with the blood-devouring pill. Chapter 1835. Ningyu only has late-stage Sky Supreme cultivation. He shouldn't have the means to find the thing I left in the blood-devouring pill. Zhao Heng's brows knitted together, feeling very puzzled. There were only two people there. One was Ningyu, the other was Ning Lu. Since it was not Ningyu, then it must be Ning Lu. But Zhao Heng really could not understand how Ning Lu could find the thing he left in the blood-devouring pill with a heavily injured body and destroy it. Since he could not understand, Zhao Heng might as well not think about it anymore. Zhao Heng was not a hothead. He needed Ningyu's help and could not fall out with Ningyu now. Gong Yangqing's source energy. He was determined to obtain it. Come and tell me, just where did Gong Yangqing put the source energy? Taking a deep breath, Zhao Heng's gaze shifted to Song Wu and said coldly. Being stared at by Zhao Heng's cold gaze, Song Wu felt a little uncomfortable all over. But facing Zhao Heng, Song Wu felt safer than facing Ningyu and Ning Lu. At least, Zhao Heng did not have any enmity towards him. His life and death, Zhao Heng did not care much about it. Who knew, he might have a way to escape from Zhao Heng here. Crash. At the same time, outside the Wuheng cave, the void suddenly split open. A group of 3 martial artists walked out of the void. If there were people from Pill Emperor City here, they would definitely discover that the old man in the lead was none other than the Alchemy Union's president, Meng Chang'an. The current Meng Chang'an frowned slightly, his eyes flickering. No one knew what he was thinking about. As for the 2 early-stage Saint martial artists beside him, their expressions were slightly nervous. As people of the Alchemy Union, Sun Feng and Chang Tian more or less knew the mysteries of the Wuheng cave. Martial artists who entered the Wuheng cave, no matter what cultivation level, no one could come out. Now that Meng Chang'an brought them to the front of the Wuheng cave, could it be that he wanted to go in? At the thought that Meng Chang'an might want to enter the Wuheng cave, Sun Feng and Chang Tian became a little nervous. Sun Feng was the first to not hold back and was the first to say, "President Meng, are we really going to enter the Wuheng cave?" "That's right. The Wuheng cave is extremely dangerous. I don't think the thief would dare to go in." Chang Tian hurriedly agreed. "Can you see the 3 big words Wuheng cave above the cave?" Meng Chang'an did not directly answer Sun Feng and Chang Tian's question. Sun Feng and Chang Tian were slightly taken aback. They looked at each other, then shook their heads at the same time and said, "I can't." "Since all of you can't see the 3 large words Everlasting Cave, do all of you think that thief can see it?" Meng Chang'an said indifferently, "Entering the Wuheng cave is imperative. If you guys aren't willing to enter, I won't force you either." This, Sun Feng and Chang Tian hesitated. Although the 2 of them were the upper echelons of the Alchemy Union, Meng Chang'an was the president of the Alchemy Union. If they offended the president, would they have any good days ahead of them? Therefore, Sun Feng and Chang Tian were in a dilemma. On one hand, they didn't want to enter the Wuheng cave. On the other hand, they were also afraid of offending Meng Chang'an, who would make things difficult for them in the future. Their conflicted expressions were vividly displayed on their faces. "I won't force you." Meng Chang'an waved his hand, then leaped into the Wuheng cave. "If we die, so be it." Sun Feng and Chang Tian looked at each other, then followed Meng Chang'an into the Wuheng cave. Boom! As soon as they entered the Wuheng cave, Sun Feng and Chang Tian regretted it. Because the Wuheng cave gave them a very strong sense of oppression. If it was just the oppression, they would not regret it. Most importantly, after the oppression, they realized that their cultivation had dropped to the early stage Sky Supreme at the same time. Both of them were early stage sages, but in just a short period of time, they had both dropped to early stage Sky Supreme. They really couldn't accept this change. President Yu? However, when their gazes fell on Meng Chang'an, the uneasiness in their hearts eased a little. There was no other reason. Meng Chang'an's cultivation had also dropped rapidly. Although his cultivation was still higher than theirs, he was only a peak Sky Supreme. Humans were like this. When something happened to them, they would panic. But when something happened to everyone, the panic in their hearts would lessen a lot. The two of you follow behind me. Remember not to run around. Meng Chang'an's tone was solemn as he slowly walked forward. Sun Feng and Chang Tian were from the Alchemy Union and belonged to his faction. They did not have a good relationship with Gong Yangqing. Now that Gong Yangqing was powerful, Meng Chang'an did not want Sun Feng and Chang Tian to join him. Therefore, the task of protecting Sun Feng and Chang Tian could only be done by Meng Chang'an. Whoosh! Not long after Meng Chang'an and the others entered the Wu Hung Cave, the void in front of the Wu Hung Cave cracked again. This time, only one martial artist appeared. This martial artist's cultivation was very terrifying, reaching the peak sage realm. Speaking of which, Elder Tianji was very familiar with this martial artist, because he was the person who left the seal in Elder Tianji's body. The Jin family's strongest expert, Jin Qilong, who was at the peak sage realm. At this time, Jin Qilong's expression was very ugly to the extreme. Originally, Jin Qilong came to Half Cloud Mountain to watch the show. But who would have thought that he would find Elder Tianji's aura here? Combined with the Jin family's death in Four Corner City, Jin Qilong instantly understood. The Jin family members who died in Four Corner City were definitely related to Elder Tianji, and Elder Tianji's aura vanished when it reached this cave entrance, indicating that Elder Tianji they all entered the cave, truly wearing out iron shoes in fruitless searching, only to find it without even looking for it. His eyes were cold. Jin Qilong practically did not have any hesitation, leaping into the Wu Hung Cave. Whoosh! Not long after Jin Qilong entered the Wu Hung Cave, the void outside the Wu Hung Cave cracked open once more. A party of 3 martial artists gradually appeared. These 3 martial artists did not stop in front of the Wu Hung Cave. The moment they appeared, their figures flashed, entering inside the Wu Hung Cave. In a short time, 6 to 7 martial artists appeared one after another. Furthermore, all of them entered the Wu Hung Cave. This kind of change made the expression of Lu Chuanji, who had long been hiding in the void, become somewhat livid. Damn it! The enraged Lu Chuanji even exploded with vulgarities. The reason why Lu Chuanji hid here was in order to wait for Ningyu they all to come out. Who knew that people entered the cave one after another, but no one came out. The more he thought, the more Lu Chuanji felt that something was not quite right. Why did so many people choose to enter the cave in front of him, and not a single person came out? Musing for a moment, Lu Chuanji decided to enter the cave to take a look too. No matter what, his cultivation was peak saint. Furthermore, due to the injuries caused by forcing the transmission array to stop, he had long recovered. Entering the cave at this time was not much danger to him. Chapter 1836. Ningyu didn't know that so many people had entered the Wu Hung Cave. But even if Ningyu knew, he couldn't do anything about it. The effect of the blood-devouring pill came so quickly that Ningyu was a little surprised. Ningyu originally estimated that he would need at least 2 hours to advance to the Peak Sky Supreme Realm after swallowing the blood-devouring pill. But he didn't expect that he would have the urge to break through in just 10 minutes. Anyone would be shocked to advance from the Late Sky Supreme Realm to the Peak Sky Supreme Realm in 10 minutes. In fact, although Ning Yu would be shocked to advance to the Peak Sky Supreme Realm in 2 hours, it wouldn't be as exaggerated as it was now. The current situation made Ning Yu extremely shocked. Be careful, I found someone entering the Wu Heng cave. Just as Ning Yu was feeling shocked, Ning Lu's solemn voice suddenly rang in his ears. Hearing Ning Lu's words, Ning Yu's expression changed slightly. The shock on his face instantly disappeared and was replaced with the same solemn expression as Ning Lu. In fact, Ning Yu didn't even need to think to know who entered the Wu Heng cave. Without a doubt, those who entered the Wu Heng cave were all the top experts of the Pill Emperor city. After all, the commotion caused by Lu Chuanji before he left would definitely attract the attention of the experts of the Pill Emperor city, making everyone mistakenly think that there was an extraordinary artifact here. How long until they get here? Ning Yu took a deep breath and asked in a deep voice. The first batch of 3 people will be here in 5 minutes, Ning Lu replied. Find a way to inform Zhao Heng and get him to buy time for me. Ning Yu's expression was cold. He decided to let Zhao Heng deal with the sudden crisis. Zhao Heng had even given him the blood-devouring pill, so he definitely didn't want him to fail. Moreover, Zhao Heng's cultivation was at the mid-stage Saint Realm. Those who entered from the outside would at most be at the Peak Sky Supreme Realm. Even if those people had trump cards, Zhao Heng could deal with them easily. Be careful. I'll inform Zhao Heng now. Ning Lu thought about it and felt that Ning Yu's suggestion was not bad. Finding Zhao Heng at this time was undoubtedly the best solution. Whoosh! Ning Lu didn't waste too much time there. After replying to Ning Yu, he immediately tore open the void and flew towards the passageway where Zhao Heng was. Although Ning Lu's essence chi was leaking, his speed was not slow. It would probably take less than a minute to reach Zhao Heng's location. Charge! Seeing Ning Lu leave, Ning Yu clenched his teeth and hurriedly circulated the spirit transformation technique, wanting to refine the last remaining blood-devouring pill in his body. Ning Yu knew that as long as he could refine all the blood-devouring pellets, his cultivation would definitely reach the pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm. Chi. Following the continuous refinement of the blood-swallowing pill, Ning Yu's sea of consciousness emitted a chi sound. This sound did not last for long before it was replaced by a series of muffled sounds. Bang, bang, bang. Every muffled sound was like the sound of nature, making Ning Yu very excited. Because Ning Yu knew that these muffled sounds were produced when he tried to break through the barrier of the pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm. When the muffled sounds disappeared or changed to another kind of sound, it would mean that he had broken through the barrier of the pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm and advanced to the pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm. Bang bang bang. The muffled sounds continued to ring out, causing Ning Yu's heart to become anxious. If no one had entered the Wu Heng cave, perhaps Ning Yu would not have been so anxious. But now, someone had entered, and he was here trying to break through to the pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm. If it was an enemy who entered, the consequences would be unimaginable. Crack! Not long after, a crisp sound came from Ning Yu's sea of consciousness. Pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm. At this moment, Ning Yu's cultivation advanced from the late stage heavenly sovereign realm to the pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm. Whoosh! After advancing to the pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm, Ning Yu's tense nerves finally relaxed a little. No matter what, it was good that he could advance to the pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm. Moreover, Ning Yu could feel that after advancing to the pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm, his combat strength had increased to a certain extent. In the past, when he was in the late stage heavenly sovereign realm, he could only deal with mid-stage sage realm martial artists. When facing late-stage Sage Realm martial artists, he could only run. But now, he could face late-stage Sage Realm martial artists with ease. He could even escape from Pinnacle Sage Realm martial artists. In other words, even if Ning Yu couldn't contend against Pinnacle Sage Realm martial artists, he could at least escape. Let's go to Ning Lu first. Ning Yu retracted his aura and immediately followed Ning Lu's aura. Whoosh! Not long after Ning Yu flew, he saw two martial artists flying toward him. Without a doubt, these two martial artists were Ning Lu and Zhao Hang. But what made Ning Yu puzzled was that Song Wu did not follow them. Where's Song Wu? Although Ning Yu didn't care about Song Wu's life or death, he felt that he should ask since he didn't see Song Wu. Here. Ning Lu patted his stomach and said, Song Wu wanted to escape, so I devoured him. Hearing Ning Lu's words, Ning Yu's face darkened. But at the same time, Ning Yu was shocked. It seemed that ever since he entered the everlasting cave, Ning Lu's devouring ability had increased a lot. In the past, it would take him some time to devour initial stage Sage Realm martial artists. Now, it only took him a few minutes to devour Pinnacle Sage Realm martial artists. Ning Yu felt that this change was a little unbelievable. If this situation continued, wouldn't Ning Lu be able to devour Pinnacle Sage Realm martial artists in the blink of an eye when he advanced to the Pinnacle Sage Realm? Shaking his head, Ning Yu removed all these thoughts from his mind. There was not much point in thinking about these things at this time. Why did you only advance to the Pinnacle Sky Supreme Realm? Zhao Heng looked at Ning Yu in a daze. At first, when Ning Lu told him that Ning Yu had devoured and refined the blood-devouring pill, he was very excited. He thought that Ning Yu was extremely talented and had advanced to the initial stage Sage Realm in such a short time. Who would have thought that Ning Yu had only advanced to the Pinnacle Sky Supreme Realm? This discovery almost made Zhao Heng curse out loud. You only gave me one blood-devouring pill. Of course, I only advanced to the Pinnacle Sky Supreme Realm. Ning Yu said helplessly, if you gave me a few more blood-devouring pills, I would definitely be able to advance to the initial stage Sage Realm. Are you sure that you finished refining one blood-devouring pill? Zhao Heng stared at Ning Yu from left to right and was a little doubtful. One blood-devouring pill only made Ning Yu advance from the late-stage Sky Supreme Realm to the Pinnacle Sky Supreme Realm. How could Zhao Heng believe it? When he was in the late-stage Sky Supreme Realm, he swallowed a blood-devouring pill and advanced to the Half-Saint Realm. Chapter 1837. The more he thought about it, the more Zhao Heng felt that it was possible. In the Devil Spirit Realm, the blood-devouring pill was not only a divine medicine to improve cultivation, but also something to determine the martial Dao talent of a top genius. Generally speaking, under the same cultivation conditions, whoever had higher talent would have less advancement after swallowing the blood-devouring pill. Because geniuses with high martial Dao talent had very vigorous essence energy in their bodies, almost equivalent to two ordinary martial artists of the same cultivation. Thinking of this, Zhao Heng said calmly, do you think that if I give you a few more blood-devouring pills, you can advance to the early stage Sage Realm? About 5 or so, I'm not very clear about the specifics, it depends on the situation. Ning Yu thought about it and replied, now is not the time to discuss this, but what we should do. Should we stay and continue to resist the people entering the Wu Heng Cave, or do as you said and find a way to leave the Wu Heng Cave? Actually, for Ning Yu, he was more inclined to leave now. Stay and deal with the people entering the Wu Heng Cave? He did not want to do this hard work. But this was the second test that the martial artist in blue gave him and Ning Lu. If Zhao Heng had no way to leave the Wu Heng Cave, then he could only stay. There is a way, but with your current cultivation, Zhao Heng looked at Ning Yu and did not continue the rest of the sentence. Even though Ning Yu did not continue, but Ning Yu was very clear that he despised his strength for being too low. Say, what should we do? Ning Yu asked in a deep voice. Very simple, you and I join forces and subdue the one-horned monster. Since Ning Yu asked, Zhao Heng felt that he should tell Ning Yu the process of the matter. The one-horned monster has the key to open the Wu Heng Cave. As long as we subdue him, we can leave the Wu Heng Cave. Ning Yu was slightly surprised. Was it really as simple as Zhao Heng said? Inside the Wu Huang cave, there was not only one one-horned monster. There were also martial artists in blue, martial artists in white, and many martial artists who just came in. What about my friends? Although he was full of doubts, Ningyu still asked. Leaving the Wu Huang cave was fine, but little Qilin, Tianji Laoren and the others had to be brought along no matter what. If it was just the three of them leaving, Ningyu would definitely not agree. Don't worry. Since I've decided to leave, I'm confident that I can take your friend with me. Zhao Heng waved his hand and said, Let's go save your friend first, but I hope you don't screw up when the time comes. Whoosh! As he spoke, Zhao Heng leaped into the air and flew towards the Elder of Heavenly Secrets and the little Qilin. Seeing Zhao Heng fly away, Ningyu and Ning Lu glanced at each other, and then they flashed out in unison to follow closely behind Zhao Heng and charge out. At the same time, in the depths of the Wu Huang cave, in a slightly spacious space, the little Qilin, Old Man Tianji, Xiun, Yunmu, Gu Yan, Anhaoping, the Talisman Sovereign, and Zhang Chang were all standing there helplessly. Around them, 4 flags echoed each other from afar, and there were barriers in the middle. Ever since Ning Yu and the single-horned monster left, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets and the rest had been staying here and didn't go anywhere else. At first, Yunmu wanted to leave, but fortunately, with the Elder of Heavenly Secrets' reminder, there wasn't any danger. But now, Yunmu's thoughts became lively again. Honestly speaking, no one would be able to endure staying in the same place for a long time without being able to move. Elder of Heavenly Secrets, are we going to stay here forever? Yunmu looked at the Elder of Heavenly Secrets and said, You told us to wait and we've already waited for a long time. But what about Ningyu? What if Ningyu dies? Noisy! Before Yunmu could finish his words, the little Qilin said with a cold expression, I told you to wait, so just wait. What's with all this nonsense? Yunmu looked a little embarrassed when she was interrupted by the little Qilin. However, the little Qilin's cultivation far surpassed her, so she could only choose to compromise. Ningyu won't die. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets frowned slightly and said, If I didn't guess wrongly, after a period of time, Ningyu will definitely come and save us. Swoosh! At this moment, the void in the distance suddenly trembled. Then, 3 figures leaped out of the void. These 3 figures approached from afar, and in the blink of an eye, they appeared in front of the Elder of Heavenly Secrets and the others. Ning Yu, Ning Lu. Seeing 2 familiar figures, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets' face lit up, and he hurriedly called out, 4 flags. After appearing, Ning Yu's attention was completely attracted by the surrounding flags. Ning Yu clearly remembered that before he left, there weren't 4 flags here. Now that there were 4 flags, it meant that the single-horned monster was still not at ease and decided to trap the Elder of Heavenly Secrets and the others. Is there a way? Ningyu turned around and stared at Zhao Heng as he asked. Of course there is a way. Zhao Heng nodded and said, however, before we break the 4 flags, we must first solve the big problem in front of us. What big problem? Ningyu was slightly startled, and he asked suspiciously. Rumble. Just as Ningyu was feeling puzzled, the wall in front of him suddenly cracked open. A warrior with a horse's head and a human body slowly appeared in front of Ningyu and the others. A single-horned monster. Without a doubt, this martial artist with a human body and a horse head that had suddenly appeared was the single-horned monster that had captured Ning Yu and Ning Lu. How audacious of you to actually dare disobey. The horned monster's gaze was gloomy as it spoke fiercely. Enough nonsense. Don't think that I don't know that the blue-clothed cultivator and the white-clothed cultivator are not in the everlasting cave right now. Zhao Heng rolled his eyes and interrupted the horned monster, and he said, Presently, only you, the horned monster, exists within the everlasting cave. Even the 4-horned monster that guards the everlasting cave all year round isn't here. He left. You. Upon hearing Zhao Hang's words, the one-horned monster looked as if it had seen a ghost. The one-horned monster had never imagined that Zhao Hang would actually know so much about the situation inside the Wu Heng cave. Not long ago, a major earthquake occurred in the organization. The blue-clothed martial artist, the white-clothed martial artist, and even the four-horned monster were all forced to leave the immortal spirit realm. One could say that inside the Wu Heng cave at this time, there was only him, a member of the organization, remaining. And to the one-horned monster, the situation at this time was completely a mishap that happened to coincide with a continuous rain. On one hand, the blue-clothed martial artists they all left. On the other hand, there was a large number of martial artists that entered the Wu Heng cave again. Originally, with so many martial artists entering the Wu Heng cave, the one-horned monster should be happy. But now that everyone left, for the one-horned monster to want to control so many people, it was really powerless even if the spirit was willing. You what you? Zhao Hang said coolly. I'm giving you two choices now. 1. Accept death obediently. 2. Surrender and obey my orders. Crack crack. Zhao Hang looking down on the one-horned monster like this made the one-horned monster abnormally furious. The one-horned monster clenched its fists tightly, making cracking sounds. Want to make me surrender? You need to have the capability first. Chapter 1838. Go! Zhao Heng's face turned cold as he looked at the monster charging at him. He turned to Ning Yu and said, "Capture it alive." As the words left his mouth, Zhao Heng's figure flashed, charging towards the single-horned monster. Rumble! Since it was a life-and-death battle, the monster wouldn't hold back. After executing the secret technique, the monster's cultivation was at the pinnacle of the Saint Realm, 2 levels higher than Zhao Heng's cultivation. Logically speaking, the monster in the pinnacle of the Saint Realm should be able to instantly kill Zhao Heng. However, Zhao Heng was not like an ordinary middle-stage sage. He was a peerless genius of the demonic spirit realm. He could fight against a martial artist whose cultivation was a few ranks higher than his, and he could even win. Although the monster's attacks seemed terrifying, they couldn't cause any actual harm to Zhao Heng. In other words, under normal circumstances, Zhao Heng was only slightly weaker than the single-horned monster. The monster could suppress Zhao Heng, but it couldn't kill him. Capture him alive? Ning Yu's face turned grave as he watched the battle between Zhao Heng and the monster, who said that he was still weaker than Zhao Heng despite reaching the pinnacle of the heavenly supreme realm. Zhao Heng was originally at a disadvantage against the monster. If he joined the battle, he might be able to tilt the scales in Zhao Heng's favor. Of course, he wouldn't be able to defeat the monster. Why don't I help? Seeing Ning Yu's hesitation, Ning Lu said, "If I go all out, I should be able to heavily injure the monster. You stay and look after the old prophet and prevent the monster from doing anything out of desperation." Get Ning Lu to take action? Unless Ning Yu was a fool, he would never do that. As it turned out, Ning Yu wasn't a fool. Ning Yu immediately stepped on the ground and joined the battlefield not far away. Rumble! Just like what was said just now, as soon as Ning Yu joined the battlefield, the scales of victory tilted towards Zhao Heng. Don't force me! When the scales of victory shifted, the feeling of focusing on the monster was naturally the strongest. From being suppressed to being suppressed, it could be said that the one-horned monster's mentality had changed slightly. Fortunately, the one-horned monster's mind was strong enough. Otherwise, this kind of obvious disparity would easily cause him to reveal a flaw. Even though the scales of victory were tilted in Zhao Heng's favor and he couldn't cause any real harm to it, the one-horned monster was still furious. This was because the one-horned monster was the only one left in the Wu Heng cave. Not only did he have to deal with Zhao Heng and Ning Yu, but he also had to deal with the other people who entered the Wu Heng cave. As long as you surrender, everything will be fine. A strike landed on Zhao Heng's back, sending him flying several feet back. Zhao Heng said coldly, but if you insist on going about things the wrong way, don't blame us for being impolite. Ah! The one-horned monster seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He threw his head back and laughed loudly. Then, he changed the topic and said sinisterly, I think you've forgotten something. At this point, the horned monster stretched out his right hand and suddenly pointed at the nearby old prophet and the others, and the corners of his mouth curled up into an arc as he continued. Their lives are in my hands. As long as I want to, I can kill them at any time. Swish! The one-horned monster's words made Ning Yu's face completely darken. Ning Yu had long guessed that the 4 flags were left behind by the one-horned monster, but he didn't dare to be sure. Now that the one-horned monster had said this, it meant that the 4 flags were very likely left behind by him. In a battle between 2 sides, the most terrifying thing was that one side had a handle on the other side. Under such circumstances, the side that had a handle on the other side had almost no chance of winning. Don't worry. With me around, he won't dare to kill your friends. As if sensing Ning Yu's worry, Zhao Heng patted Ning Yu's shoulder and said, Your friends aren't weak. Even if he activates the 4 flags, he won't be able to kill them in a short time. Moreover, activating the 4 flags requires time. I don't believe that the one-horned monster would dare to do that. Zhao Heng's analysis threw the problem back to the one-horned monster. Activating the flags required time. And as long as the one-horned monster dared to activate the array, Zhao Heng would dare to attack aggressively and kill the one-horned monster. In an instant, the one-horned monster's advantage turned into a disadvantage. At most, we'll fight to the death. Sensing that the other group of people was getting closer and closer, the one-horned monster's expression suddenly became ferocious. The one-horned monster's heart was as clear as a mirror. This was the Wu Heng cave. Even if the other group of people came, it was impossible for them to cooperate with him. If the other group of people did not cooperate with Zhao Heng's group, then it would be a tripartite situation where no one could do anything to the other. But if the other group of people cooperated with Zhao Heng's group, then he would become the target of public criticism, and there was even a high possibility that he would end up vanishing into thin air. Ning Yu, there are many people rushing over here now. I just want to know if they have a hostile relationship with you. Zhao Heng completely ignored the one-horned monster, because he knew very well that the one-horned monster would not really dare to fight to the death. People like this who said they wanted to fight to the death actually did not want to fight to the death. They just wanted to use it to threaten him. That's hard to say. Ning Yu thought about it and said, The Song Wu and Cheninga that we killed before were Gong Yangqing's people. Those who entered the Wu Heng cave later should be experts from Pil Emperor City. Then it's fine. Let's continue to attack. We must capture the one-horned monster alive. Zhao Heng saw things more clearly. If they wanted to leave the Wu Heng cave, the only option was to capture the one-horned monster alive. In Zhao Heng's view, the one-horned monster would not really dare to fight to the death anyway. So even if other experts really came, he was not very afraid. Because this was the Wu Heng cave, which could suppress the cultivation of experts to the Sky Supreme realm. Those experts from Pil Emperor City, after their cultivation was suppressed to the Sky Supreme realm, would probably be a little fearful if they encountered a saint-level martial artist again and would not dare to fight head-on. Zhao Heng was similar to Ning Yu, swift and decisive. He attacked as soon as he said he would, without the slightest hesitation. Lunatics, you're all lunatics. Looking at Zhao Heng and Ning Yu who were rushing towards him again, the one-horned monster could not help but shout, Since you're so presumptuous, I'll show you what I'm made of. The moment the voice sounded, the one-horned monster opened his mouth wide and spat out 2 blood-red cold rays. Swoosh! Swoosh! The blood-red cold rays were very fast. Almost in the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of Ning Yu and Zhao Heng. Not good, he wants to escape. Zhao Heng's attention was not on the blood-red cold rays, but on the one-horned monster. Although the blood-red cold rays were very powerful, in Zhao Hang's eyes, they were ordinary, completely not in line with the one-horned monster's peak sage strength. The one-horned monster said to show him what he was made of, but there was no reason for its power to be so low. So Zhao Hang focused his attention on the one-horned monster. Chapter 1839. The one-horned monster didn't want to risk its life, but to escape, pretending to be a plank road, but trying to escape. On the surface, the one-horned monster was trying to disrupt Ning Yu and Zhao Hang's vision, but it was actually trying to escape. After all, this was the everlasting cave, and the one-horned monster knew the structure of this place better than anyone else. As long as it could escape from Zhao Hang and Ning Yu's pursuit, it could regroup and kill its way back. Ning Yu, I'll think of a way to stop the one-horned monster. Your mission is to injure it. Zhao Hang hurriedly said to Ning Yu, then tore through the void and chased after the one-horned monster. As for the blood-colored light that the one-horned monster unleashed, it didn't pose any threat to Zhao Hang. Zhao Hang easily blocked it. Go! Zhao Hang could easily block the blood-colored light, but that didn't mean that Ning Yu could. Facing the blood-colored light, Ning Yu could only use his full strength. The energy in his body surged and gathered on his wrist, then Ning Yu threw a backhand punch. A fist shadow appeared, and in the blink of an eye, it collided with the blood-colored light that the one-horned monster unleashed. Sizzle! As the two collided, a crisp sizzling sound rang out in this area. Puff! After the sizzling sound, the blood-colored light, which had lost its power, still hit Ning Yu's chest. The pain from his chest made Ning Yu vomit a mouthful of blood. Ning Yu felt a little lucky. Fortunately, he threw out a punch to reduce the power of the blood-colored light. Otherwise, just the attack of the blood-colored light would be enough to make him suffer. After all, the one-horned monster's cultivation was at the pinnacle of the Saint realm. Even if it didn't use its full strength, it wouldn't be easy to resist the attack of a pinnacle Saint realm cultivator. It seems that I've underestimated the fighting strength of a pinnacle Saint realm cultivator. Ning Yu took a deep breath and had to re-evaluate his strength. Previously, when Ning Yu reached the pinnacle of the heavenly supreme realm, he felt that he couldn't fight against a pinnacle Saint realm cultivator, but he could escape. From the looks of it now, he didn't even have the chance to escape from a warrior at the peak of the Sage realm. With his current strength, he could only contend with a late Sage realm warrior. If he used his trump card, he could even kill a late Sage realm warrior. Heavily injure the unicorn. Ning Yu took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. Not far away, Zhao Hang was doing his best to stop the one-horned monster from escaping. The other group of people was about to arrive. In order to prevent any sudden changes, Ning Yu only had 3 minutes at most. It was still very difficult for Ning Yu to use a secret technique to heavily injure the one-horned monster within 3 minutes. Emperor God Technique, Supreme 9 Purities Sword Art, Netherworld Samsara Palm. Ning Yu secretly thought about which of his moves was the most powerful. But after thinking about it over and over again, Ning Yu felt that although his spells were powerful, none of them had been cultivated to their peak. Using a spell technique that hadn't been cultivated to the pinnacle, it would be more difficult than ascending to the heavens to severely injure a single-horned monster at the pinnacle of the Sage realm. Demonic Lotus Flame. After thinking about it over and over again, Ning Yu finally decided to use the Demonic Lotus Flame. His current soul force strength had already risen to the peak of the 9th grade realm. Although there was still a huge gap between him and the Alchemy Emperor in terms of controlling the Demonic Lotus Flame, he had already reached the point of perfection. No matter what, the Demonic Lotus Flame was the 5th existence on the Mystic Flame list. Using the Demonic Lotus Flame to deal with the one-horned monster was the best. So much so that Ning Yu wanted to use the Heavenly Fire Pill Cauldron together. If he could keep the one-horned monster inside the Heavenly Fire Pill Cauldron, then all the problems would be solved. In for a penny, in for a pound. I'll use the heavenly fire pill cauldron too. Ning Yu did things swiftly and decisively, and he did it when he said he would do it. He immediately used the demonic lotus flame and hid it inside the heavenly fire pill cauldron. Dragging the heavenly fire pill cauldron with his right hand, Ning Yu rushed toward the one-horned monster at a terrifying speed. Not good. Originally, the one-horned monster was entangled with Zhao Hang, wanting to shake him off. But the sound of rushing wind coming from afar made his gaze involuntarily shift to Ning Yu. It was this seemingly unintentional shift of gaze this time that made the one-horned monster act as if facing a great enemy, hurriedly choosing to flee. The reason why the one-horned monster chose to flee was that he sensed an extremely terrifying aura from inside the pill cauldron in Ning Yu's hands. This aura made the one-horned monster's heart palpitate. Where are you going? Zhao Hang's attention had been placed on the one-horned monster all along. For the one-horned monster to want to escape, it had to shake him off first. And at this time, for the one-horned monster to want to shake Zhao Hang off, it was even harder than ascending to the heavens. Bang! Zhao Hang attacked domineeringly. While the one-horned monster was in a panic, a punch slammed onto his back. The tremendous force coming from his back made the one-horned monster's body fly straight ahead. Open! Ning Yu's mind stirred, hurriedly opening the heavenly fire pill cauldron. No. The one-horned monster's pupils constricted, unable to resist crying out. The one-horned monster had a deep fear towards the heavenly fire pill cauldron. Enter the heavenly fire pill cauldron? Impossible. The one-horned monster would rather face another group of people than enter the heavenly fire pill cauldron. Demonic lotus flame. Ning Yu knew very well that with just Zhao Hang alone, it was almost impossible to blast the one-horned monster into the heavenly fire pill cauldron. As the saying went, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Even though the one-horned monster was hit in the back by Zhao Hang, it reacted very quickly and hurriedly flew to the other side. As long as it did not enter the heavenly fire pill cauldron, it could go anywhere. Go over. Ning Yu gritted his teeth and immediately injected peak rank 9 soul force into the demonic lotus flame, controlling the demonic lotus flame to charge toward the one-horned monster. The reason why Zhao Hang could hit the one-horned monster was entirely because the one-horned monster was careless. Now that the one-horned monster had reacted, how could it still be hit by Zhao Hang? Under such circumstances, Ning Yu could only rely on his own strength to keep the one-horned monster into the heavenly fire pill cauldron. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Wherever the scorching demonic lotus flame passed, the air would sizzle from the heat. And the one-horned monster was like a headless fly, hurriedly flying toward the depths of the endless cave. Heavenly fire pill cauldron. Ning Yu controlled the demonic lotus flame to chase after the one-horned monster while controlling the heavenly fire pill cauldron to cut off the small path. As for the small path, it was Zhao Hang who told him. Zhao Hang's understanding of the endless cave was much more than Ning Yu. Ning Yu did not ask how Zhao Hang knew about the small path. He only had one mission now, and that was to keep the one-horned monster into the heavenly fire pill cauldron. Humph, want to catch me? In your next life, no, Zhao Hang should know part of the endless cave's structure. I can't stay here for long. After the one-horned monster flew for a while, it felt that the flame behind it was getting further and further away, and its expression immediately became relaxed. It even turned around and snorted coldly. However, before its cold words had faded, its expression changed drastically. Chapter 1840. The more he thought about it, the uglier the single-horned monster's expression became. He was the only one left in the Wu Heng cave. If he was sucked into Ning Yu's pill furnace, then no one would come to help him. Therefore, the one-horned monster only had one thought, and that was to retreat as soon as possible. It was to the extent that the single-horned monster had the urge to leave the everlasting cave. Voila! However, as soon as the horned monster had the urge to leave the everlasting cave, an unforeseen event occurred. The void in front of him suddenly split open. A pill furnace that wasn't too big blocked his path of retreat. Heavenly Fire Alchemy Furnace. Needless to say, this pill furnace that suddenly appeared was Ning Yu's Heavenly Fire Pill Furnace. Whoosh! If the Heavenly Fire Alchemy Cauldron was the only thing blocking its path of retreat, the one-horned monster wouldn't have been so shocked. More importantly, not far in front of him, a demonic flame was speeding towards him. Demonic Lotus Flame. In front of him was the Heavenly Fire Elixir Cauldron, and behind him was the demonic Lotus Flame. Under such circumstances, the horned monster was truly left with no way out. If the one-horned monster was still in peak condition, it naturally wouldn't have to fear the demonic Lotus Flame and the Heavenly Fire Pill Furnace. But after the intense battle with Zhao Heng just now, he had already lost most of his strength. With his current strength, it would be extremely difficult for him to even withstand one of them, let alone the Heaven Fire Elixir Cauldron and the demonic Lotus Flame. Unicorn, I advise you to surrender. Otherwise, you should know the consequences. Although Ning Yu said that he wanted the one-horned monster to surrender, his hands were not idle. The demonic Lotus Flame rapidly swept forward, charging towards the one-horned monster at an extremely terrifying speed. As for the Heavenly Fire Alchemy Cauldron, it kept growing bigger. Putting the one-horned monster into the Heavenly Fire Alchemical Furnace was Ning Yu's goal, and it was something that he had to accomplish. Because they were unable to control the horned monster, they had no way of leaving the Wu Heng Cave. Abandon this Wu Heng Cave. The single-horned monster was not a stubborn person. He made a prompt decision and chose to give up on the everlasting cave. Although giving up on the Wu Heng Cave might cause him to fall into a situation of eternal damnation, not giving up would cause him to fall into a situation of eternal damnation right now. Buzz. He waved his hands repeatedly, and the space in this area gradually became unstable. The mountains will not change, and the rivers will continue to flow. We will meet again. Before he left, the one-horned monster didn't forget to leave behind some harsh words. He turned to stare at Ning Yu and said fiercely, "The next time I return, it will be the day you die. Good chance." Ning Yu didn't take the one-horned monster's cold words to heart. Ning Yu was only concerned about one thing, and that was the 1-second pause of the one-horned monster. Seizing this rare second, Ning Yu controlled the demonic Lotus Flame and the Heavenly Fire Alchemy Furnace to attack the one-horned monster from the front and back. No. The one-horned monster's pupils constricted, and it couldn't help but shout. At this moment, the single-horned monster finally panicked. In fact, the single-horned monster was filled with regret. If he hadn't been so ruthless, he would probably have left by now. Because of his ruthless words, he stayed here for a second longer than he should have. It was this 1 second that turned him into a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. In the next moment, bang! The demonic Lotus Flame turned into a cold light and slammed into the one-horned monster's chest. The huge impact from the chest sent the one-horned monster flying. Behind the one-horned monster, the Heavenly Fire Alchemy Furnace suddenly enlarged, and with almost no effort, it sucked the one-horned monster in. Whoosh! Seeing the one-horned monster enter the Heavenly Fire Alchemy Furnace, Ning Yu couldn't help but let out a long sigh, revealing a relieved expression. No matter what, being able to capture the one-horned monster was beneficial for the following matters. Let's go back first. Ning Yu put away the demonic Lotus Flame, then brought the Heavenly Fire Alchemy Furnace and flew straight in the direction of Zhao Heng and Ning Lu. Capturing the one-horned monster was not the most important thing. The most important thing was to use the one-horned monster to open the Wu Heng Cave. Only by opening the Wu Heng Cave could they leave and not be trapped here all year round. After all, the Wu Heng Cave was extremely dangerous, and the blue-clothed martial artist and the rest might return soon. and the strength of the blue-clothed martial artist and the rest was not something the one-horned monster could compare to. Once the blue-clothed martial artist and the rest returned, the consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, Ning Yu immediately brought the heavenly fire alchemy furnace and flew in the direction of Zhao Hang and Ning Lu. Ning Yu's speed was very fast. In just a dozen seconds, he returned to the place where Zhao Hang and Ning Lu were. However, when Ning Yu saw the few figures confronting Zhao Hang, his face instantly turned cold. In front of Zhao Hang, there were a total of 7 figures. Among them, 5 had reached the peak of Sky Supreme, and 2 had reached the early stage of Sky Supreme. This was the Wu Hung Cave. After entering the Wu Hung Cave, their cultivation could still reach the peak of Sky Supreme, which meant that the cultivation of these 5 martial artists in front of him was at least the peak of Sage in the outside world. Did you succeed? Ning Yu's sudden return eased Zhao Hang's nervous expression a little as he hurriedly asked. Yes. Ning Yu nodded slightly and said in a deep voice, "Who are these people?" "The people who want your life." Before Zhao Hang could reply, one of the Peak Sky Supreme martial artists said coldly, "Hand over the little Qilin and Elder Tianji, and I will consider leaving your corpses intact." "You are?" Ning Yu frowned as he looked at the Peak Sky Supreme martial artist. Jin Qilong. Jin Qilong stepped forward and said proudly. No wonder. Ning Yu immediately understood. So he was from the Jin family. No wonder he had such a soft spot for Elder Tianji. In Giant Shield City, a martial artist had left a seal in Elder Tianji's body. And Elder Tianji had said that the martial artist who left the seal in his body was the leader of the Jin family in the immortal spirit realm, a peak sage. If there was no accident, this Jin Qilong should be the strongest immortal spirit realm expert in the Jin family. "And who are you?" Ning Yu's gaze shifted to the other martial artists. "We won't interfere in your matters." In front of the 2 early Sky Supreme martial artists was a Peak Sky Supreme. He stared at Ning Yu and took a step back, indicating his position. "We won't interfere either." Hearing that this Peak Sky Supreme wasn't going to interfere, the other 3 Peak Sky Supreme martial artists also took a step back. Their attitude was clear. Their betrayal made Jin Qilong's expression turn extremely ugly. Originally, the few of them had already discussed it. Advance and retreat together. Now that he was the only one standing against Ning Yu's group, how could he not be angry? "Meng Chang'an, what is the meaning of this?" Chapter 1841. As long as I want to be the president of the Alchemist Union, no one can remove it. Meng Chang'an raised his eyelids and swept a glance at Zhao Hang. "As for you, take care of yourself first." Meng Chang'an's meaning was simple. Although he was slightly injured from the battle with the single-horned monster, Zhao Hang's fighting strength was still formidable. Furthermore, his cultivation was at the middle phase Saint Realm, 2 levels higher than Jin Qilong. Adding on the pinnacle Heavenly Supreme Ning Yu, Jin Qilong probably had to pray for his own luck. "Good, very good. Don't regret it." Jin Qilong's expression turned sinister. "When Gong Yangqing announces that he's removing you as the president of the Alchemist Union, I'll see who dares to speak up for you." "You're threatening me?" Hearing Jin Qilong's threatening words, Meng Chang'an's face couldn't help turning dark, no matter how good his character was. "If that's what you think, then let's just treat it as a threat." Jin Qilong didn't seem to fear Meng Chang'an at all. He shrugged. Meng Chang'an's expression changed. Logically speaking, Jin Qilong should be afraid that he was working together with Ning Yu. Since Jin Qilong wasn't afraid, it meant that he was confident. Thinking about it, Meng Chang'an's gaze shifted to the other 3 pinnacle heavenly sovereigns. So that's the case. With a single glance, Meng Chang'an immediately understood what was going on. At the same time, Meng Chang'an felt a little admiration for Jin Qilong. One must know that the other three pinnacle heavenly sovereigns were the three tyrants of the Pill Emperor city. The fact that Jin Qilong could convince them meant that he had some ability. Looks like I'll have to get involved in this matter. Meng Chang'an moved closer to Ningyu. If anyone wants to deal with Ningyu, they'll have to get through me first. President. Meng Chang'an's action scared Sun Feng and Chang Tian. No matter how they looked at it, Jin Qilong had the absolute advantage. If he chose to go against Jin Qilong at this time, wasn't he clearly looking for trouble for himself? Sun Feng and Chang Tian did not want to stand against Jin Qilong. They hurriedly advised, "Let's leave this cave quickly and capture that." Meng Chang'an raised his brows and turned to look at Sun Feng and Chang Tian. "I won't stop you if you want to leave. President, don't worry, we won't." Being stared at by Meng Chang'an, Sun Feng and Chang Tian shuddered and quickly patted their chests in assurance. The two of them had been by Meng Chang'an's side for a long time. Even if it was a small movement from Meng Chang'an, they would know what it meant. Even though Meng Chang'an appeared indifferent, that was not the case in reality. If the two of them left as they were long as they could, realm as if they were too for long as they could. Jin Qilong rolled his eyes. Then, he looked at the other three warriors and said, "Your task is very simple. Stop Meng Chang'an and stall this Saint Intermediate Stage warrior for me. After this is done, I will definitely do what I promised. I hope that you won't go back on your words." The three other cultivators were the three tyrants of the Pill Emperor city. No one knew where they came from, but they knew that the three of them were pinnacle heavenly sovereigns. No one in the Pill Emperor city dared to provoke them. Although their cultivation was suppressed to the pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm, they had their own trump cards. So it shouldn't be too difficult for them to complete Jin Qilong's task. The three tyrants had a clear division of labor. The strongest tyrant stayed behind to watch Meng Chang'an. The other two bullies charged at Zhao Hang. "Are there any problems?" Ningyu immediately asked through his soul when he saw the two tyrants charging towards Zhao Hang. "I'm fine, but you're the key. That Jin Qilong you're dealing with is much stronger than Song Wu. Although you've reached the pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm, you still have to be careful." Zhao Hang shook his head. "Remember, you have to hold on for half an hour. I'll come and help you after that." Rustle. As he spoke, Zhao Hang stomped on the ground and flew out. Fortunately, Zhao Hang wasn't in his peak state. Otherwise, he wouldn't need half an hour to deal with two tyrants who weren't even the strongest. "I'll deal with you first, then go capture Elder Tianji and the little Qilin." The corner of Jin Qilong's mouth curled up. His body turned into a blur as he charged at Ningyu. "Ning Lu, go over there and take care of him." Looking at Jin Qilong charging towards him, Ningyu pushed Ning Lu away. Instead of retreating, he chose to face Jin Qilong head-on. If this wasn't the Wuhan cave, Ningyu definitely wouldn't dare face Jin Qilong head-on. He would only dodge. Most importantly, this was the Wuhan cave. Jin Qilong's cultivation was suppressed to the pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm. Under such circumstances, Ningyu naturally dared to face Jin Qilong head-on. Even though he knew that Jin Qilong was strong, Ningyu definitely wouldn't retreat. Rumble. Jin Qilong's speed was very fast. Almost at the same instant that Ningyu pushed Ning Lu away, he arrived beside Ningyu. His right hand clenched into a fist, bringing with it a violent gale of vital energy as he ruthlessly punched at Ningyu's head. Jin Qilong's meaning was very clear. Kill Ningyu. Originally, Jin Qilong wanted to leave him alive. But suddenly, Jin Qilong changed his mind. He was determined to kill Ningyu. This was because, in Jin Qilong's view, Ningyu was the biggest variable. As long as he could kill Ningyu, all the variables would disappear. Everything that followed would also be smooth sailing. However, Jin Qilong wanted to kill Ningyu. How could Ningyu not want to kill him? Ever since a long time ago, Ningyu had formed a feud with the Thousand Leaf Empire's Gene family. If there was a chance to kill a Gene family cultivator, whether it was from a higher-level existential plane or a celestial spirit realm cultivator, Ningyu wouldn't give it up. Bang! The two fists collided and a crisp sound rang out. Then, Ningyu and Jin Qilong flew back at the same time. However, judging from the distance he flew backward, Ningyu was at an absolute disadvantage. Damn it, the demonic lotus flame! In a moment of desperation, Ningyu directly cursed and decided to use the demonic lotus flame. The demonic lotus flame was ranked in the top 5 of the mystical flames. Not to mention that Jin Qilong was only a peak sky supreme. Even if he was a peak sage, he wouldn't dare to face the demonic lotus flame head-on. What? When Ningyu summoned the demonic lotus flame, the one who was the most shocked was not Jin Qilong, but Meng Chang'an, who was fighting on the other side. As the president of the Alchemy Union, Meng Chang'an had studied all kinds of flames. As soon as Ningyu summoned the flame, he determined that it was the demonic lotus flame, ranked in the top 5 of the mystical flames. Looks like the human demon was right. Ningyu has great luck. Chapter 1842. Damn it! Jin Qilong cursed under his breath as he looked at the flames rushing towards him. Although Jin Qilong wasn't an alchemist and didn't know that the flames Ningyu summoned were ranked 5th on the mystic flame list, the demonic lotus flame, he knew that the flames Ningyu summoned were very powerful. At the very least, with his current strength, it was impossible for him to face the flames head-on. You forced me to do this. With a cold expression, Jin Qilong stomped his feet on the ground again and rushed out. However, this time, Jin Qilong didn't choose Ningyu but Ning Lu. Since I can't face the flames head-on, then no problem. I'll settle for the next best thing and capture your friend first. Moreover, as long as I can capture your friend, I might be able to obtain the flames. If I can tame this flame, my strength can at least double. Jin Qilong thought to himself as he rushed towards Ning Lu. You two, go and help. Meng Chang'an's attention had always been on Jin Qilong and Ningyu. When he saw Jin Qilong rush towards Ning Lu, he immediately decided to let Sun Feng and Chang Tian help. Ningyu had the demonic lotus flame, so it was inevitable that Jin Qilong was afraid of him. But Ning Lu didn't have the demonic lotus flame. Jin Qilong was afraid of Ningyu, but he wasn't afraid of Ning Lu. The human demon had repeatedly told him that Ningyu couldn't die. Ningyu's friends couldn't die either. Thinking of the human demon's words when he took that thing from the Alchemist Union, Meng Chang'an felt that he had to ensure the safety of Ningyu and his friends. We'll go help. Hearing Meng Chang'an's words, Sun Feng and Chang Tian were slightly dumbfounded. Jin Qilong was extremely powerful. If the two of them went, they would only be cannon fodder. Forget it, you two deal with him. I'll go help personally. Meng Chang'an thought about it and felt that what Sun Feng and Chang Tian said made sense. Even Ningyu couldn't suppress Jin Qilong with the demonic lotus flame, let alone Sun Feng and Chang Tian. Xiao. After giving a hurried order, Meng Chang'an forced the bully he was fighting to retreat and rushed towards Jin Qilong. Rumble. Meng Chang'an had just forced the tyrant back when Sun Feng and Chang Tian hurriedly acted as if they were facing a great enemy. Meng Chang'an's opponent was a peak sky supreme. Sun Feng and Chang Tian were only at the initial phase heavenly sovereign realm, not to mention that they weren't talented. Therefore, they could only give it their all to deal with a pinnacle heavenly sovereign. Ha ha ha, Ningyu, I've captured your friend, why would I be afraid of you? Not good. Jin Qilong's speed was very fast. In practically a blink of an eye, he arrived in front of Ning Lu. However, before Jin Qilong could finish his maniacal laughter, his expression suddenly turned cold, and he quickly retreated. The reason why Jin Qilong retreated was none other than Meng Chang'an coming over. In the everlasting cave, Meng Chang'an's cultivation was also at the peak of the sky supreme realm. Jin Qilong was very clear of his own strength. In a one-on-one battle, he should be able to contend against Meng Chang'an. But now that Meng Chang'an had launched a sneak attack, he could only choose to retreat. Otherwise, if Meng Chang'an's sneak attack succeeded, he would probably have to bear the consequences. Meng Chang'an, have you hardened your heart to go against me? Retreating a few steps to avoid Meng Chang'an's attack, Jin Qilong's expression turned cold, and he said, "Our Jin family is not to be trifled with. Do you know how many of our Jin family descended from the higher planes this time? Ningyu, how about the two of us join forces to deal with Jin Qilong?" Meng Chang'an didn't even look Jin Qilong in the eye. He moved his feet, walking straight towards Ningyu, and said, "But you have to lend me your demonic lotus flame." "You want to borrow my demonic lotus flame?" Ningyu's expression changed slightly, and at the same time, he secretly raised his guard. One must always be on guard against others. Don't look at how Meng Chang'an wanted to help him now, but who knew what he was planning? What if Meng Chang'an didn't return the demonic lotus flame after defeating Jin Qilong? It wasn't that Ningyu didn't trust Meng Chang'an, but that he was unaccountably solicitous. Ningyu didn't think that it was his charisma that convinced Meng Chang'an, because ever since his rebirth, he had never seen Meng Chang'an. Meng Chang'an helping him was completely unreasonable. A few days ago, Human Demon came to Pill Emperor City and took something from my hands. How could Meng Chang'an not know of Ningyu's worries? His mouth moved, and he sent a soul message to Ningyu, and before Human Demon left, he told me that you would come to Pill Emperor City in a while, and that I must ensure your safety. Human Demon. Hearing this, Ningyu's expression slightly improved. After thinking for a while, Ningyu sent a soul message. "Do you know where Senior Human Demon is now?" Shaking his head, Meng Chang'an said, "After Human Demon took that thing, he said he wanted to find a place to rest. I felt that he would come to Wu Hung Cave, so I brought people here to find him." Human Demon might be in Wu Hung Cave? Ningyu's first thought was that it was impossible. After all, there were blue-clothed martial artists and single-horned monsters inside Wu Hung Cave. There was no reason for a powerhouse like Human Demon to come to this place to take risk. But thinking about it, Ningyu felt that the possibility was very high. As the saying goes, the most dangerous place is the safest place. Finding a place to rest inside Wu Hung Cave, the safety factor was very high, and he would almost not be disturbed by others. The more he thought about it, the more Ningyu felt that this possibility was very high. It was just that now was not the time to contact Human Demon. He had to get rid of Jin Qilong first. "I can lend you the demonic lotus flame to use, but I want a drop of your blood essence." Ningyu didn't think too much and said in a deep voice, "No problem." Meng Chang'an was even more straightforward than Ningyu. He swung his right hand, directly forcing out a drop of blood essence, and threw it to Ningyu. But, receiving Meng Chang'an's blood essence, Ningyu carefully threw it into the storage ring to preserve. With Meng Chang'an's blood essence, Ningyu would not fear Meng Chang'an defecting. Because even if Meng Chang'an defected, he also had the confidence to use this drop of blood essence to find Meng Chang'an. Of course, all of this was built on the premise that he could escape in the end. If he could not even leave the Wu Hung Cave, then saying anything was pointless. "You guys are courting death." Jin Qilong was so angry that his face turned green, his nose crooked. He wanted to threaten Meng Chang'an, but he did not think that Meng Chang'an did not even look at him. Since he could not threaten Meng Chang'an, then he immediately changed tactics and decided to deal with Meng Chang'an. But Jin Qilong was not a fool. He knew that after Meng Chang'an obtained Ningyu's flame, his strength would definitely increase a lot. Hence, he secretly contacted the three bullies, wanting to give Meng Chang'an a fatal blow. Whoosh! His figure flashed. Jin Qilong was the first to rush towards Meng Chang'an. Jin Qilong's mission was very arduous. Not only did he have to forcefully resist Meng Chang'an's first attack, but he also had to create opportunities for the three bullies. Chapter 1843. Ningyu, go and help Sun Feng and the rest. As for Jin Qilong, leave him to me. Meng Chang'an caught the demonic lotus flame that Ningyu tossed over. His eyes burned with passion. Meng Chang'an was the president of the Alchemy Union. His soul force had reached the peak of peak grade 9. He was only half a step away from becoming a grade 10 pill emperor. Obtaining the demonic lotus flame was like adding wings to a tiger. In order to prevent Jin Qilong from doing anything desperate to deal with Ningyu, Meng Chang'an decided to let Ningyu leave first to join forces with Sun Feng and Chang Tian. Be careful. Ningyu was not the kind of person who was unreasonable. He took a deep look at Meng Chang'an before moving towards Sun Feng's battlefield. Meng Chang'an, I'll let you know how powerful I am today. Next year, today will be the day you die. Ningyu had just retreated when Jin Qilong roared and rushed out. There must be something fishy about this. Meng Chang'an frowned as he looked at Jin Qilong, who was rushing towards him. He felt that something was amiss. When the demonic lotus flame was in Ningyu's hands, Jin Qilong didn't dare to fight with Ningyu. But now that the demonic lotus flame was in his hands, Jin Qilong actually dared to attack him. This matter didn't seem right no matter how he looked at it. Meng Chang'an decided not to use the demonic lotus flame for now. He wanted to use his own strength to fight with Jin Qilong first. Rumble. Even though Meng Chang'an didn't use the demonic lotus flame, his battle prowess was still terrifying. A terrifying palm imprint separated from Meng Chang'an's hand and ruthlessly flew towards Jin Qilong. Jin Qilong was clearly disappointed that Meng Chang'an didn't use the demonic lotus flame. However, Jin Qilong didn't dare to block recklessly. He still used his full strength. Similarly, a terrifying palm imprint swept out from Jin Qilong's hand and collided with Meng Chang'an's palm imprint. Gotcha! When the two palm imprints collided, a crisp sound rang out in the void. Jin Qilong and Meng Chang'an's attacks directly tore a hole in the void. Prepare yourselves. When Meng Chang'an and I exchange 3 moves, you must make your move. On the surface, Jin Qilong was fighting with Meng Chang'an, but in reality, he was secretly contacting the 3 bullies. 2 bullies were fighting fiercely with Zhao Hang, and 1 was fighting fiercely with Ningyu. Jin Qilong was confident that as long as he joined hands with the 3 bullies to attack at the same time, even if they couldn't kill Meng Chang'an in 1 move, they would definitely be able to heavily injure him. As for Zhao Hang and Ningyu, they could be ignored for the time being. Once they could get rid of Meng Chang'an, Zhao Hang and Ningyu would definitely choose to escape. What he needed to do was to join forces with the 3 bullies and capture Ningyu and Zhao Hang in one fell swoop while they were on the run. It had to be said that Jin Qilong's ideal was very rich. Little did they know that there was always a huge gap between ideals and reality. Poochie. In the second exchange, Meng Chang'an actually used the demonic lotus flame. Due to Meng Chang'an's sudden strength, Jin Qilong was careless and was hit in the chest by the demonic lotus flame controlled by Meng Chang'an. Luckily, Jin Qilong reacted in time and hurriedly chopped off a piece of skin on his chest. Otherwise, Jin Qilong's chest injury would probably be even more serious. Even so, Jin Qilong also couldn't help but spit out a big mouthful of fresh blood. His face became deathly pale and his breathing rapidly dropped. Damn it! Jin Qilong cursed in his heart. His entire person looked very angry. Originally, in Jin Qilong's plan, he and the 3 bullies would attack together to kill Meng Chang'an during the 3rd move. But now that he suffered heavy injuries in the 2nd move, it directly caused the power of the 3rd move to be greatly reduced. Jin Qilong even wanted to cancel the plan and let the 3 bullies deal with Meng Chang'an while he chose to escape. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. However, before Jin Qilong could escape in time, the 3 bullies forced back their opponents and rushed towards Meng Chang'an. Motherf***ker. The sudden attack from the three bullies left Jin Qilong with no other choice. He could only brace himself and face it head-on. Let you all witness the prowess of an alchemist. Looking at the four figures rushing towards him unceasingly, not only was Meng Chang'an not afraid, but the corners of his mouth curled up and he said coldly, "Kill!" Following the word "kill" from Meng Chang'an's mouth, a horrifying wave of essence qi emerged from his sea of consciousness. What emerged together with the essence qi was Meng Chang'an's peak rank 9 soul force. Meng Chang'an's soul force strength had long reached peak rank 9 and was only half a step away from rank 10. Qi. Soul force and essence qi intertwined and instantly arrived at Meng Chang'an's wrist. Meng Chang'an's wrist shook and controlled the soul force and essence qi to enter the demonic lotus flame. When the essence qi and soul force just entered the demonic lotus flame gave off sizzling sounds. Rumble. Moreover, the demonic lotus flame suddenly became bigger. In a short time, it directly expanded several times. The expanded demonic lotus flame practically enveloped Jin Qilong and the three bullies inside. So terrifying! From afar, Zhao Heng saw the demonic lotus flame become so terrifying in Meng Chang'an's hands, and his face faintly turned solemn. Although Zhao Heng was very confident in his own strength, seeing the strength that Meng Chang'an displayed at this moment, his confidence was slightly shaken for the first time. Zhao Heng knew that even if his strength recovered to peak condition, it was almost impossible to beat the current Meng Chang'an. An alchemist using the mystic flame to battle, the battle strength was really too terrifying. The strength of his soul force should be similar to my previous life. Ningyu did not doubt the terror of the demonic lotus flame, nor did he doubt that Meng Chang'an could use the demonic lotus flame to display such powerful battle strength. This was because on the mystic flame list, the higher the rank, the stronger the power. If he could find the number 1 flame on the mystic flame list, Ningyu was confident that he could rely on just this flame to fight against a peak sage martial artist. Of course, the prerequisite was that his soul force strength had recovered to the same level as in his previous life, breaking through the core and becoming a martial emperor realm. If his soul force was insufficient, even if he had the number 1 flame on the mystic flame list, his battle strength would not increase too much. Bang! 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 This battle, in fact, had already ended when Meng Chang'an obtained the control of the demonic lotus flame. 4 consecutive crisp sounds rang out. Everyone looked over and saw that Jin Qilong and the 3 bullies had all fallen to the ground, falling flat on their faces. Retreat! Jin Qilong was worthy of being the leader of the Jin family. He knew that if he stayed, only death would be waiting for him. So as soon as he fell to the ground, he suddenly tore the void and drilled into it. As the saying goes, where there is life, there is hope. At this moment, Jin Qilong was very unwilling to use his trump card, drilled into the void and disappeared. Where are you going? Seeing that Jin Qilong drilled into the void, Meng Chang'an held the demonic lotus flame in his hand and his figure swept, wanting to chase after him. There is no need to chase after him. It is impossible for him to leave Wu Heng Cave. Chapter 1844. This concerns whether we can leave this place alive? Meng Chang'an originally wanted to chase after Jin Qilong, but when he heard Zhao Heng's words, he immediately stopped. He was slightly puzzled and asked with a frown, "What do you mean?" Since ancient times, one can only enter the Wu Heng Cave but not leave. Zhao Heng explained. It's not that easy for us to leave. Didn't you say that we can leave the Wu Heng Cave by capturing the unicorn monster? Ningyu was confused. Zhao Heng had said that to leave the Wu Heng Cave, they had to capture the unicorn monster first. Ningyu had thought that they could leave the Wu Heng Cave easily after capturing the unicorn monster. But it seemed that things were not as simple as they seemed. The unicorn monster has the key to open the Wu Heng Cave, but there is an array at the exit of the Wu Heng Cave. We need to break through that array to get out. Zhao Heng's expression was solemn. If I'm not wrong, there is a high possibility of a sage grand perfection in that array. An illusory demonic beast of the full cultivation realm. What? Zhao Heng's words made everyone's expression change. Due to the restrictions of the immortal spirit realm, the strongest in the immortal spirit realm could only be a peak sage. In other words, it was difficult to find someone in the entire immortal spirit realm who could fight against a sage grand perfection realm demonic beast. Who wouldn't be shocked under such circumstances? Don't worry. Although that illusory demonic beast is a sage grand perfection realm cultivator, its actual battle strength is only slightly stronger than a peak sage. Zhao Heng waved his hand. If we join forces, we might be able to defeat that illusory demonic beast. Now that things have come to this, we can only. Meng Chang'an's expression was extremely solemn as he took a deep breath. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. But before Meng Chang'an could finish his words, the three bullies hurriedly tore through the void and dashed towards the entrance of the Wu Hing cave. When Jin Qilong was escaping, the three bullies were all lying on the ground, pretending to be on their last breath, thus avoiding everyone's attention. While Meng Chang'an and the rest were distracted by Zhao Heng's words, the three bullies decisively tore through the void and dashed in. Where are you going? Seeing the three bullies escape, Meng Chang'an's expression turned cold as he threw out the demonic lotus flame. Chi. The speed of the demonic lotus flame was very fast. Almost in an instant it exploded on the back of a bully. The temperature of the demonic lotus flame was terrifyingly high. Almost in an instant, the clothes on the tyrant's back were burnt to a crisp, and even a large piece of his skin was burnt off. Old Third. When the other two bullies saw the bully who was entangled by the demonic lotus flame, their expressions changed and they slowed down. Swoosh. It was obvious that the other two bullies had only slowed down for a short moment. They were very clear that the bullies who were entangled by the demonic lotus flames definitely had no way to survive. Rather than staying and fighting, it was better to retreat first and wait for an opportunity. Pucci. Meng Chang'an did not chase after the other two bullies. Instead, he controlled the demonic lotus flame and focused on dealing with this bully. Every once in a while, the tyrant who was entangled by the demonic lotus flames would spit out a large mouthful of blood. He looked like he was on the verge of death. Leave him alive and hand him over to Ning Lu. Seeing that Meng Chang'an was about to control the demonic lotus flame to kill the bully, Ning Yu hurriedly shouted. Ning Lu needed to constantly devour energy to slow down the leakage of his vital energy. A warrior who was a peak sage in the outside world could probably prevent Ning Lu's vital energy from leaking for a few days. No problem. Meng Chang'an did not ask Ning Yu for the reason. With a thought, he controlled the demonic lotus flame to withdraw from the bully's body and threw the bully and the demonic lotus flame out. The bully was thrown at Ning Lu. As for the demonic lotus flame, it was thrown at Ning Yu. Many thanks. Ning Yu raised his right hand slightly and controlled the demonic lotus flame to dance on his wrist. Pa. Ning Yu did not stand on ceremony. He waved both his hands and stuck to the bully's back, beginning his frenzied devouring journey. You guys recuperate first. I'll go rescue the few of them. Zhao Heng waved his hand at Ning Yu and the rest. His figure flashed and appeared in front of Elder Tianji and the rest. Essence Qi pulsed on his wrist as Zhao Heng suddenly punched out. Rumble! The attack power of Zhao Heng's punch had reached a terrifying level. The protective shield formed by the four flags, under the bombardment of Zhao Heng's punch, actually showed signs of cracking. Elder Tianji and the rest, who were in the center of the flags, all showed a look of disbelief. It should be known that even if all of them joined forces, they would not have the confidence to blast open the protective shield. But Zhao Heng's punch actually caused the protective shield to loosen. Could it be that outside the Wu Heng cave, his cultivation exceeded the sage realm? Elder Tianji and Yun Mu had the same thought in their minds at the same time. In the Wu Hung cave, everyone's cultivation was suppressed. This was something that everyone knew. Unless they were peerless geniuses, otherwise, everyone's cultivation would be suppressed by a large level. What's more, their cultivation would be suppressed to below the Sky Supreme stage. If Zhao Heng's cultivation outside the Wu Hung cave was also at the Sage Intermediate stage, then Elder Tianji and the rest would probably have to look at him in a different light. Crack, 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 crack. At this moment, 4 consecutive crisp, cracking sounds rang out. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Immediately after, 4 flags flew out at the same time, flying in all directions. And the flying of the flags meant that the protective shield that trapped Elder Tianji and the rest had completely collapsed. Little Qilin, Elder Tianji, Xiun, Yunmu, Gu Yen, and Haoping, the Talisman's supremacy, and Zhang Chang all revealed expressions of relief at the same time. When they were trapped in the 4 flags, they had already lost all hope. Now that they had broken out, they felt that it was unreal. Ningyu, who exactly is this friend of yours? Before they could express their thanks, Meng Chang'an exclaimed on the other side. Meng Chang'an's face was full of confusion. As the president of the Alchemy Union, he was considered a reputable figure in the celestial spirit realm. Other than some old monsters who did not show their faces, Meng Chang'an's strength could be ranked in the top few. But it was this person with such high status and great strength who revealed a confused expression at this moment. He's a little special. Ningyu knew why Meng Chang'an was surprised. He hurriedly explained. He once absorbed the blood essence of a heaven-devouring dog. Ningyu was not stupid. He would not tell Meng Chang'an about Ning Lu's identity. Ningyu could not guarantee that Meng Chang'an would not be tempted by a cultivator formed by the World Tree. No wonder. Meng Chang'an had a doubtful expression. Meng Chang'an had a deep understanding of the heaven-devouring dog. The speed at which Ning Lu devoured the tyrant was something that even some mature heaven-devouring dogs could not achieve. But since Ningyu was unwilling to reveal Ning Lu's identity, Meng Chang'an was too embarrassed to ask. After some thought, Meng Chang'an took out a few elixirs and said, I see that your friend urgently needs elixirs to replenish his energy. I have a few elixirs here that can be used by him. Chapter 1845. Swoosh. Looking at the elixirs flying towards him, Ning Lu appeared very calm. He raised his right hand slightly and forced the elixirs to stop in front of him. After devouring Tyrant, Ning Lu was no longer that weak person. It could be said that Ning Lu's current combat power was basically equivalent to Ning Yu's. It was just that as time passed, his strength would decrease exponentially. Grabbing a few elixirs and randomly throwing them into his mouth, Ning Lu said to Meng Chang'an, Thank you for your elixirs. Ning Lu's action made the corner of the man's mouth twitch slightly. Although the energy contained in these elixirs was slightly weaker than the energy contained in Tyrant's body. But Ning Lu throwing so many elixirs into his mouth at once still made Meng Chang'an slightly shocked. Ning Yu, release the one-horned monster. Zhao Heng didn't have the time to care about Ning Yu swallowing elixirs. He said to Ning Yu, We need to get the key to open the Wu Hung cave from him. Whoosh. With a thought, Ning Yu took out the heavenly fire elixir cauldron, opened the lid of the cauldron, and poured out the one-horned monster. What the F***ck? Seeing Ning Yu take out the pill furnace, Meng Chang'an directly cursed. If Ning Yu's possession of the demonic lotus flame had shocked Meng Chang'an, then seeing Ning Yu's heavenly fire pill furnace, Meng Chang'an's shock could no longer be expressed in words. The demonic lotus flame was ranked 5th on the mystic flame list, while the heavenly fire pill furnace was ranked 3rd on the pill furnace list. Who exactly was Ning Yu? Why did he have the demonic lotus flame and the heavenly fire pill furnace, two things that alchemists could only dream of when he was only at the pinnacle of Sky Supreme? Meng Chang'an couldn't understand it no matter how hard he tried. One-horned monster, I'll give you a chance to live. Zhao Hang didn't care about Meng Chang'an's shocked expression. To Zhao Hang, getting the key to open the Wu Heng cave from the one-horned monster was the most important thing now. Bah! Kill me and you all can forget about leaving the Wu Heng cave forever. The single-horned monster seemed to have guessed what Zhao Hang wanted to do. He directly spat out a mouthful of saliva and said coldly, "If you're sensible, then release me as soon as possible. Perhaps if I'm happy, I'll open the everlasting cave and let you out." Refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. Zhao Hang's face turned cold as he leaped up. Xiao! In the blink of an eye, Zhao Hang arrived in front of the one-horned monster. His foot brought along a violent yuan qi gale as it ruthlessly smashed towards the one-horned monster's chest. Zhao Hang's kick was extremely powerful. If the one-horned monster was hit, it would be crippled even if it didn't die. The corner of the one-horned monster's mouth curled up, but it didn't even blink. Because the horned monster knew very well that Zhao Hang would absolutely not dare to kill it, and it was even to the extent that Zhao Hang wouldn't dare to heavily injure it. Gotcha! 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 However, the development of things was always so strange. This time, the single-horned monster's judgment was wrong. Zhao Hang exerted force with his right leg and kicked him hard in the chest. A crisp sound rang out. Without a doubt, Zhao Hang did not hold back in this kick at all. Consecutive tree roots and ribs broke, causing the one-horned monster to collapse to the ground on the spot, his entire body a little broken. You! The one-horned monster forcefully endured the intense pain coming from his chest, pointed a finger at Zhao Hang and said fiercely, "Don't you regret it?" "I won't regret it because I know where the key to open the Wu Heng cave is. I'll go get it now." Zhao Hang shrugged as if he didn't care at all. "Impossible. The key to open the Wu Heng cave is with me," the one-horned monster yelled. However, the one-horned monster's cry was only halfway through when it abruptly stopped. Because the one-horned monster noticed that the corners of Zhao Hang's mouth curled up, and he was looking at him playfully. "Looks like you're not very smart either." Following this sentence, Zhao Hang directly swept out and blasted out another punch. The power of this punch was even more terrifying than the kick earlier. Run! Facing Zhao Hang's attack, the one-horned monster only had one thought in its mind, and that was to escape. However, it was obviously too late for the one-horned monster to think of escaping at this time. Zhao Hang's speed was very fast, almost in the blink of an eye. He arrived in front of the one-horned monster, and his fist fiercely blasted on the one-horned monster's heart. Bang! The flesh hit the ground, giving off a crisp sound. "You will regret it." Before dying, the one-horned monster raised its right hand, pointing at Zhao Hang. The instant the voice fell, the one-horned monster breathed its last, dying on the spot. "Ningyu, use your demonic lotus flame to burn the one-horned monster." Zhao Hang looked at Ningyu and said. "Burn." Ningyu was slightly stunned, a little confused. Zhao Hang said before that the one-horned monster was the key to opening the Wu Heng cave, and he had to find the key from him. But now, he did not find the key, but killed the one-horned monster. How could Ningyu not be surprised? However, although he was surprised, Ningyu's hands were not idle. With a thought, he controlled the demonic lotus flame to fly toward the one-horned monster. Chi! The temperature of the demonic lotus flame was extremely high. It only used a short few seconds to burn the one-horned monster until nothing was left. Key! After burning the one-horned monster, Ningyu looked at the golden key lying flat on the ground and asked in puzzlement, "Zhao Hang, is this key the key to open the Wu Heng cave?" "That's right, let's go now." Zhao Hang's eyes revealed an excited look. He grabbed the key, then his figure swept, flying towards the Wu Heng cave's exit. After Zhao Hang left, Ningyu and Meng Chang'an they all did not idle either, but followed closely behind Zhao Hang. At the same time, at the Wu Heng cave's exit, Three martial artists were currently confronting each other. Two of them were bullies, and the other was Jin Qilong. The two bullies were called Ren Tong and Hu Shui. The current Ren Tong and Hu Shui could be said to be angered until their noses were crooked. They already knew that their third brother was killed, and the cause of the matter was precisely because of this Jin Qilong in front of them. Jin Qilong, we'll give you the last 3 minutes. If you can't open the Wu Heng cave after 3 minutes, we'll have to make a move. Ren Tong's expression was gloomy as he berated. You guys rest assured. 3 minutes later, I'll definitely be able to open the Wu Heng cave. Jin Qilong wiped the sweat on his forehead and said hurriedly. Jin Qilong originally thought that he could leave the Wu Heng cave in advance. Who would have thought that after he busied himself here for a period of time, he did not even have a clue. And just at this time, the two bullies, Ren Tong and Hu Shui, suddenly rushed over. If not for Jin Qilong being quick-witted and saying that he had a way to open the Wu Heng cave, most likely Ren Tong and Hu Shui would have long made a move on him. Even so, Ren Tong and Hu Shui were extremely furious too. One could imagine that if he could not open the Wu Heng cave within 3 minutes, Ren Tong and Hu Shui would absolutely not let him off. Chapter 1846. This time we really went for wool and came home shorn. We suffered a double loss. Jin Qilong was extremely flustered. The current situation was extremely disadvantageous to him. Forget about 3 minutes, even if he was given 10 minutes, 100 minutes, he would not be able to open the everlasting cave. Jin Qilong rolled his eyes, trying to think of a countermeasure. Once the 3 minutes were up, Ren Tong and Hu Shui would attack him. What he needed to do was to recuperate as much as possible within these 3 minutes. Then, taking advantage of Ren Tong and Hu Shui's carelessness, he made his move in advance. As long as he could kill or severely injure Ren Tong and Hu Shui, his life would be saved. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. 3 minutes passed very quickly in Jin Qilong's eyes. Jin Qilong, what about opening the Wu Heng cave? As expected, once the 3 minutes were up, Ren Tong and Hu Shui questioned him at the same time. Look over here. Jin Qilong revealed a confident expression and pointed behind Ren Tong and Hu Shui. Actually, I've already opened the Wu Heng cave. The Wu Heng cave has already been opened by you? Ren Tong and Hu Shui were both stunned. No matter how they looked at it, the Wu Heng cave was in a completely sealed state. How could it possibly be opened by Jin Qilong? Let me demonstrate for you. Jin Qilong rolled his eyes. Soon after, he moved his feet and walked towards the direction he had pointed. Ren Tong and Hu Shui crossed their arms in front of their chests. They wanted to see how Jin Qilong would open the everlasting cave. Look carefully. Don't blink. When he arrived in front of Ying Hui and Hu Shui, Jin Qilong paused for a moment, twisted his neck and said, "Whoosh, whoosh." The moment his voice fell, Jin Qilong used both his hands and feet. He clenched his right fist and punched at Ren Tong. He lifted his right leg and kicked towards Hu Shui. Not good. Jin Qilong's sudden outburst caused Ren Tong and Hu Shui's expressions to change drastically. To be honest, if it was any other time, they would definitely not be so careless. The main thing was that they wanted to leave the Wu Heng cave in advance, so they gave Jin Qilong the opportunity to take advantage of. In a panic, Ren Tong and Hu Shui launched a counterattack at the same time. Bang! Bang! Jin Qilong's attack had practically used all of his trump cards. He did not hold back at all. Even though Ren Tong and Hu Shui fought back, it was to no avail. Under Jin Qilong's powerful attack, the two of them retreated at the same time and fell heavily to the ground. You will die a horrible death. Ren Tong looked at Jin Qilong angrily and even stuttered. I don't know if I will die a horrible death, but I know that the two of you will die a horrible death right now. Hit the snake where it hurts, don't hold back. Jin Qilong understood this principle. He chased after him and threw out 2 more punches. One punch landed on Rintong's head, and the other on Hu Shui's head. Rintong and Hu Shui, who were already heavily injured in the first place, did not manage to hold on and died on the spot. "Thank you for your help." Jin Qilong hurriedly moved and grabbed Rintong and Hu Shui. First, he separated 2 strands of soul force and injected them into their bodies. Then, he threw the 2 of them at the exit of the Wu Heng cave. Jin Qilong's figure flickered as he retreated. Only after retreating far away did Jin Qilong control the soul force left in Rintong and the other 2's bodies, causing them to explode. Rumble. Although Rintong and Hu Shui were already dead and their cultivation had been suppressed to the peak of the heavenly supreme realm, the power of their explosion was still very powerful. A terrifying explosion sounded, and then the entire Wu Heng cave was on the verge of collapse. "Is it open?" Jin Qilong's eyes were fixed on the barrier at the exit of the Wu Heng cave, and his eyes were full of hope. This might be Jin Qilong's last hope. If he could break the barrier, he could leave and make a comeback. If he couldn't break the barrier, he could only be trapped in the Wu Heng cave. Crack! Then, a cracking sound rang out. Hearing this crisp cracking sound, Jin Qilong's face was full of excitement. At the same time, Jin Qilong's tense nerves eased a little. Because Jin Qilong knew that the Wu Heng cave had been broken, and he could leave. "Ningyu Meng Chang'an, we'll meet again someday." With a cold look in his eyes, Jin Qilong immediately moved his feet and flew out of the Wu Heng cave. Rumble. However, just when Jin Qilong flew out of the Wu Heng cave, his pupils shrank and he looked a little dumbfounded. The reason why Jin Qilong had such an expression was because he discovered that there was another array outside the Wu Heng cave. If it was just an array, Jin Qilong wouldn't be so dumbfounded. Most importantly, there was a horse-headed, human-bodied demonic beast in the array. There were 5 horns on the head of this demonic beast. Its cultivation had reached the terrifying pinnacle saint realm. No, the perfected saint realm. Sensing the aura of the 5-horned demonic beast, Jin Qilong's heart sank to the bottom. Right now, his cultivation was only at the pinnacle heavenly supreme realm, so how could he deal with a perfected saint realm demonic beast? Roar! Just when Jin Qilong was dumbfounded, the 5-horned demonic beast roared at the sky and slapped Jin Qilong. Initially, the 5-horned demonic beast's palm was small, but as it moved forward, it grew bigger and bigger. In the end, the slap enveloped Jin Qilong, leaving him with nowhere to escape. The huge slap ruthlessly slammed down. Jin Qilong raised his hands slightly, trying to use them to resist this terrifying impact. Crack! Crack! It was a pity. Both of Jin Qilong's arms were broken, but he couldn't stop the huge slap. Because the force was too great, only Jin Qilong's head was left on the ground, and the rest of his body was squeezed into the ground. Roar! Succeeding in its attack, the 5-horned demonic beast roared again and raised its palm, about to slap down again. Swoosh! 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 At this moment, countless figures shot out from the Wu Heng cave. Seeing the sudden appearance of several figures, the 5-horned demonic beast paused for a moment and retracted its palm. The 5-horned demonic beast retracted its palm, and Jin Qilong naturally escaped. "It's you guys." Jin Qilong looked at the figures that suddenly appeared, and the hope that had just risen in his heart was extinguished once again. If he fell into the hands of the 5-horned demonic beast, he would be smashed into a meat patty. If he fell into the hands of Ningyu, he would be sucked dry, at the very least. Compared to human jerky, Jin Qilong preferred meat patty. "Thank you so much." Ningyu looked at Jin Qilong, who only had a head left, and couldn't help thanking him. When they were in the Wu Heng cave, Zhao Hang had already discussed the plan. They would first work together to break the Wu Heng cave, and this level might consume a lot of energy. Next, they would use the golden key to break the restriction of the Wu Heng cave, so that their cultivation would recover to its peak. The last level was to deal with the 5-horned demonic beast. Now that the first level had been broken by Jin Qilong, it saved them a lot of trouble. Chapter 1847. Kill me or torture me, do as you wish. Jin Qilong spat with all his strength and said coldly, even if you kill one Jin Qilong, the Jin clan still has millions and millions of Jin Qilong. You've offended the Jin clan, so you're doomed. You don't have to worry about that. Ningyu shrugged and turned to Ninglu. I'll leave Jin Qilong to you. Devour him, and you should be able to last a few more days. Whoosh! Ninglu wasn't going to be courteous with Ningyu. His figure flickered as he charged towards Jin Qilong. I'm the representative of the Jin clan in the celestial spirit stage. If you kill me, the Jin clan will send even more powerful cultivators. You can't kill. Jin Qilong finally revealed a terrified expression when he saw Ning Lu approaching him. Crack! How could Ning Lu be affected by Jin Qilong? He stretched out his right hand and placed it on Jin Qilong's head as he started devouring him. Not long after, Jin Qilong was devoured into a dried corpse. As for Ning Lu, he had recovered to his peak state, and his battle prowess had already surpassed Ningyu. However, even if Ning Lu's cultivation was stronger than him, Ningyu wouldn't allow him to make a move. Go! He threw the golden key in his hand into the eye of the formation. Whoosh! When the golden key was thrown into the array core, Ningyu and the rest felt a formless aura being sucked into the key. Thereafter, the cultivation of Meng Chang'an, Ziyun, Gu Yen and the rest instantly rose, recovering to their peak state. Everyone, let's attack together. Only by defeating this five-horned demonic beast can we leave. Seeing that everyone had recovered their cultivation, Zhao Heng said with a grave expression, Don't kill the five-horned demonic beast, just force it into the everlasting cave. Rustle! As soon as Zhao Heng's voice fell, everyone moved in unison and attacked one after another. Among them, Zhao Heng, Meng Chang'an, and the little Qilin were the main force, in charge of restraining the five-horned demonic beast. Ziyun, Gu Yen, and Anhaoping were on par with each other in terms of strength, so they were in charge of finding opportunities to launch sneak attack. As for Zhang Chang, Sun Feng, Chang Tian, and the others, they were waiting for an opportunity to act. They would rush over to help whichever side revealed an opening. As for Yun Mu, the Talisman Martial Highness, and the others, they did not make a move. They simply backed away from the battlefield. The five-horned monster's cultivation was at the Sage Peak stage. Although its battle prowess was not at the Sage Peak stage, it had surpassed the Sage Peak stage. Martial artists below the Sage realm would not be able to help much when fighting against a demonic beast of this level. At first, Ningyu also wanted to make a move, but he suddenly changed his mind. Now was not the best time to make a move. Besides, it wouldn't make a difference whether he was there or not. Just now, Ningyu suddenly discovered that several auras were faintly discernible in his surroundings. In other words, someone was quietly squatting around the Wu Hing cave, wanting to make a mantis stalking the cicada unaware of the aureole behind. I hope you have some self-awareness. Ningyu's face was solemn. He looked around and murmured, Rumble. Half of Ningyu's attention was on the outside, while the other half was on the battlefield. On the battlefield, Zhao Heng and the others were already engaged in an intense battle with the five-horned monster. Although the five-horned monster was an illusion, its battle prowess was abnormally strong. Zhao Heng, Meng Chang'an, the little Qilin, Ziyun, and Anhaoping's battle prowess could kill an ordinary Sage Peak stage martialist in 3 minutes at most. Now that they had joined forces to deal with the five-horned monster, they did not have the upper hand at all. Instead, they were at a slight disadvantage. This situation really surprised Ningyu. President Meng, I'll lend you the demonic lotus flame and the heavenly fire cauldron. With a thought, Ningyu took out the demonic lotus flame and the heavenly fire cauldron and threw them to Meng Chang'an. Roar! The five-horned monster's attention seemed to be attracted by the heavenly fire cauldron and the demonic lotus flame. It roared at the sky and opened its mouth, wanting to swallow the demonic lotus flame and the heavenly fire cauldron. This is a good chance. Ningyu did not expect things to turn out this way. He was slightly startled at first, then his face lit up with joy. He hurriedly controlled the demonic lotus flame and the heavenly fire cauldron to fly towards the five-horned monster. Since you want them, I'll give them to you. Swish, swish. The heavenly fire cauldron and the demonic lotus flame streaked across the sky and entered the five-horned monster's mouth under everyone's shocked gazes. Roar, roar, roar. The five-horned monster regretted swallowing the demonic lotus flame and the heavenly fire cauldron. It was an illusory monster and not a real body. The demonic lotus flame had a fatal restraining effect on such illusory things. The energy in its body was rapidly flowing away, and the five-horned monster's strength was declining at a terrifying speed. After roaring a few times, the five-horned monster spat out the demonic lotus flame and the heavenly fire cauldron. However, how could Ningyu give it this chance? Even if he had to suffer serious injuries, Ningyu wanted to keep the demonic lotus flame in the five-horned monster's body. Even if it stayed for a second longer, the five-horned monster's strength would decline. The decline of the five-horned monster's strength was extremely beneficial to Zhao Hang and the rest. In the beginning, they were at a complete disadvantage in the battle with the five-horned monster. However, gradually they were able to resist it. As time passed, they actually gained the upper hand. The scales of victory were constantly tilting towards Zhao Hang and the rest. Die! The five-horned monster knew that it was unable to spit out the demonic lotus flame and the heavenly fire cauldron. It raised its right hand and ruthlessly slapped the owner of the demonic lotus flame, Ningyu. Damn it! Looking at the huge palm that was coming towards him, Ningyu knew that he could not hold on any longer. Cursing inwardly, Ningyu's mind surged as he controlled the demonic lotus flame and the heavenly fire cauldron to fly out. The heavenly fire cauldron and the demonic lotus flame that flew out naturally landed in Meng Chang'an's hands. With the heavenly fire cauldron in his left hand and the demonic lotus flame in his right, Meng Chang'an looked like a god of war. You guys help me stall for a few minutes. I want to kill it completely. Meng Chang'an's eyes were solemn as he said in a deep voice. No, we can only force it into the Wu Heng cave. We can't kill it. Hearing that Meng Chang'an wanted to kill the five-horned monster, Zhao Hang immediately said, "This array has a special characteristic. After killing a five-horned monster, two more will appear." What? Meng Chang'an's expression changed slightly. If it was really as Zhao Hang said, then he was lucky that he did not make a move. Otherwise, if two five-horned monsters appeared, all of them would die. Quickly force the five-horned monster into the Wu Heng cave. Zhao Hang's gaze was fixed on the five-horned demon beast. When he felt an invisible energy enter the body of the five-horned demon beast, he immediately shouted, "If we're a step late, the five-horned demon beast's strength will recover to its peak state." Boom! However, just as Zhao Hang finished speaking, the entire Wu Heng cave shook violently. Chapter 1848. What's going on? The sudden explosion made the faces of Ningyu and the rest change drastically. Especially Zhao Hang, his pupils constricted, hurriedly wanting to determine what happened. The explosion sound came from the depths of the Wu Heng cave, which was also to say that something unforeseen happened inside the Wu Heng cave. If it was just an ordinary explosion sound, Zhao Hang would not be so anxious. One had to know, not long ago, so many of them were fighting fiercely inside the Wu Heng cave, but it could not make the Wu Heng cave sway in the slightest. Now, an explosion sound actually made the entire Wu Heng cave sway. This kind of situation, how could Zhao Hang possibly not be surprised? In fact, Zhao Heng suspected that the blue-clothed martial artist they all came back. The more Zhao Heng thought, the more he felt that this was possible. Sucking in a deep breath, Zhao Heng said in a solemn voice, "Ignore the explosion sound inside the Wu Heng cave first. The urgent matter is to force the five-horned demonic beast into the Wu Heng cave." Rumble. Things always developed in an unpredictable direction. The words in Zhao Heng's mouth had just faded when there was another explosion sound coming from inside the Wu Heng cave. Compared to the previous explosion sound, this explosion sound was louder and more powerful. "Quickly go, the Wu Heng cave is going to collapse." Ning Yu's attention was initially placed on the five-horned demonic beast. But following the sound of the explosion inside the Wu Heng cave, his attention gradually shifted to the Wu Heng cave. When the second explosion sounded out, Ning Yu realized the seriousness of the problem. He made a prompt decision and chose to retreat. Although he could not leave the array formation, staying far away from the Wu Heng cave was still not a big problem. Furthermore, the explosion sounds coming from inside the Wu Heng cave became more and more obvious, more and more terrifying. Now, even a fool could roughly guess that the Wu Heng cave was going to be destroyed. Retreat. When Zhao Heng they all heard Ning Yu's cry, they immediately gave up attacking the five-horned demonic beast and turned to sprint outside. Swoosh. When everyone chose to escape, the five-horned demonic beast actually did not retreat but advanced, speeding straight towards the Wu Heng cave. Damn it, it must be the blue-clothed martial artist coming back. Seeing the five-horned demonic beast choose to enter the Wu Heng cave at this time, Zhao Heng guessed the crux of the problem in practically an instant. The Wu Heng cave had a rule. Only when it was a matter of life and death would the five-horned demonic beasts in the formation be used. Now that the five-horned demon beast had entered the Wu Heng cave, it was obvious that the Wu Heng cave of the immortal spirit realm had reached a moment of life and death. Gotcha! The violent shaking of the Wu Heng cave had a huge impact on the array formation at the exit. Just as Ning Yu and the others arrived at the edge of the array formation broke with a loud crack. When the formation was broken, Ning Yu and the others were overjoyed and retreated into the distance. Rumble. However, Ning Yu and the others hadn't retreated far when the everlasting cave exploded with a bang. The explosion this time caused the entire Wu Heng cave to be completely caved in. What? Originally, Ning Yu should have been happy that Wu Heng cave had collapsed. After all, now that Wu Heng cave had collapsed, he would not have to worry about the blue-clad cultivators and the others chasing after him. But when an extremely familiar aura was detected by Ning Yu's eyes instantly widened, his face full of surprise. There was no other reason. This aura was very familiar to Ning Yu. It was none other than the human devil. Why would the human devil be inside the Wu Heng cave? Ning Yu felt very puzzled. Meng Chanan said before that the human devil was very likely to be hiding inside the Wu Heng cave, but Ning Yu did not believe it. But the things that happened now made Ning Yu have no choice but to believe a fact. The human devil was indeed inside the Wu Heng cave. Ning Yu, what are you waiting for? Let's hurry to Pill Emperor City. Meng Chanan saw that Ning Yu was slightly dazed and hurriedly touched Ning Yu's shoulder, saying anxiously, "Don't bother about the matters of the Wu Heng cave. Because of the existence of the plane barrier, even if those people leave the Wu Heng cave, they can at most only exert peak sage combat power. Our top priority is to return to Pill Emperor City in advance. As for other matters, it has nothing to do with us for the time being." Ning Yu knew. Actually, according to the current situation, leaving this place and returning to Pill Emperor City was the most correct choice. But, when Ning Yu learned that the martial artist fighting inside the Wu Heng cave was the human devil, how could he possibly leave? Sucking in a deep breath, Ning Yu said, "I'll have to trouble you to bring them away first. That person inside the Wu Heng cave is my friend. I must stay behind." "Your friend?" Meng Chanan was taken aback, looking at Ning Yu doubtfully, not quite understanding. Human devil, Ningyu said solemnly. Sun Feng, Chang Tian, you guys bring Ningyu's friends back first. I'll stay with Ningyu. Hearing Ningyu's words, Meng Chang'an practically said without thinking, even if the two of you risk your old lives, you have to protect everyone well. Understood. Sun Feng and Chang Tian exchanged glances, both seeing some solemnity from the other party's eyes. Sun Feng and Chang Tian were not fools. The two of their strengths were not as powerful as the little Qilin and Zhao Heng they all. Since Meng Chang'an entrusted the little Qilin and the rest to him, there was only one objective: to let them ensure the little Qilin and the rest's safety in Pil Emperor City. After all, Gong Yangqing was in Pil Emperor City, and if the little Qilin and the rest went to Pil Emperor City, they would definitely clash with Gong Yangqing. At this time, their usefulness should be manifested. Meng Chang'an had managed Pil Emperor City for many years. His influence in Pil Emperor City was not weak. As long as the two of them integrated their forces, then Gong Yangqing would also weigh it properly. What are you guys staying behind for? Seeing that Ningyu and Meng Chang'an insisted on staying behind, Zhao Heng was slightly puzzled. The current situation, no matter how he looked at it, they should return to Pil Emperor City. My friends are inside the Wu Heng cave, Ningyu explained. I'll stay behind too. Zhao Heng was slightly startled and immediately said, the rest of you go to Pil Emperor City first. After we rescue your friends, we'll go to Pil Emperor City to meet up with them right away. Zhao Heng was not a fool. His mentality was the same as Bright Mirror. His objective was to snatch Gong Yangqing's source power. Since Ningyu said that his friends were inside the Wu Heng cave, it showed that his friend's strength was not weak. One had to know, the blue-clothed martial artist had a very high possibility of being inside the Wu Heng cave too. Just relying on his own strength, he definitely could not snatch the source power from Gong Yangqing there. If he added in a friend of Ningyu's, the success rate would probably be much higher. Hence, Zhao Heng had to stay behind no matter what. One more person, one more portion of strength. If Zhao Heng wanted to stay behind, Ningyu would not obstruct it. He walked straight to the little Qilin and old man Heavenly Secret's side, slightly whispered a few words, then walked to Ning Lu's side and said a sentence before withdrawing. In the beginning, the little Qilin and the rest did not want to leave. But hearing Ningyu's words, they all chose to withdraw one after another, leaving together with Sun Feng and Chang Tian. Crash! Ningyu's perception power had been paying attention to the surroundings all the while. Only until the little Qilin and the rest completely disappeared from his field of vision did he slightly set his mind at ease. No matter what, the little Qilin and the rest should not be in too much danger to their lives. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.